Chapter 36:11. If Renzime said that she didn't know before, everyone didn't believe it, but at this moment, hearing Ren Zihang's explanation, everyone gradually believed it. Because they clearly noticed that when Ren Zihang and the other two discovered the effect of the healing medicine, they also showed a surprised expression. It could be seen that they didn't know anything about this situation before. Then where did you get this healing medicine? Jing Tianlang couldn't help but ask. When we returned to the inner hall, we went to the restaurant of Penglai Island to eat. During the meal, we met a person who called himself a doctor. We had a good chat, so he gave us some healing medicine, saying that the effect was excellent. However, we saw that the other party was very young, so we didn't believe what he said at all. We just thought that he was blowing his own trumpet. For the sake of the other party's face, we still accepted the healing medicine, but no one took it seriously. Just now, because my injury was too serious, ordinary healing medicine had no effect. Renzime suddenly thought of this healing medicine, so we wanted to give it a try. I just didn't expect that what the young doctor said was actually true. The effect of this healing medicine is so good, and it can even restrain the dark power. It's really surprising. Ren Zihang told the truth half-truthfully. He did get this healing medicine from the hands of a young doctor. He also got it when he was eating in the restaurant, but this person was also their Penglai Palace's disciple. Listening to Ren Zihang's words, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. Although there were still some doubts in their hearts, they felt that what he said might be true. So that's how it is. I don't know which doctor has such superb medical skills. You didn't contact him after that? Everyone was still a little unwilling. If they could know this doctor, then their life-saving means in this place in the future would be strengthened a lot. Ren Zihang shook his head regretfully. At that time, we just happened to meet and had a good chat. He gave us some healing medicine, and we didn't think that he would be so powerful, so we didn't take it seriously. If I knew this, I would definitely ask where he lived, but now I really don't know where to find him. I only hope that I can meet him again next time in the restaurant of Penglai Palace. Chu Jinfeng sighed. You really can't judge a book by its cover. If that doctor wasn't so young, we wouldn't have ignored him. We really missed a great opportunity this time. Which restaurant did you guys go to? What does that doctor look like? Ren Zihang and the others casually made up some news and told it to everyone. Although it was obviously a lie, it was well made up and successfully deceived everyone. After sending everyone away, the three of them couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. We finally managed to deceive everyone. Fortunately, Big Brother's reaction was fast enough. Otherwise, we would be in trouble. No matter what, as Inner Palace disciples, they'd always been training with everyone else. If they were to offend everyone because of this matter, then it would be extremely disadvantageous to their future development in the Inner Palace. Chapter 36:12. Chu Jinfeng nodded. Today's situation is really beyond our expectations. We should have tested it earlier. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen into such an awkward situation just now. Who would have thought that Junior Sister Bailey's medical skills would be so exquisite? If it were anyone else, they would probably have the same reaction as us. Renzime shook her head and sighed. But the situation now has no impact on us. The next time we go back, we really have to thank Junior Sister Bailey. If Junior Sister Bailey is willing to sell the healing medicine, I think Junior Sister Bailey will soon be very popular in the Penglai Palace. Chu Jinfeng's eyes lit up and a smile appeared on the corner of his lips. Previously, I thought that Junior Sister Bailey and the other three's popularity in the Outer Palace was too low. Now it seems that I don't have to worry too much. Once she releases the news, I'm afraid that not only the cultivators in the Outer Palace, but also the cultivators in the Inner Palace will take the initiative to get closer to her. What you said is true, Ren Zihang chuckled. A capable doctor will always be welcomed by everyone at any time. I suddenly feel that we are very lucky. If Junior Sister Bailey and the others hadn't met us by accident, I'm afraid the situation would be different now. Ren Zime and the other two exchanged glances. Then, smiles appeared on their faces. The next day, a touch of dawn appeared in the sky. Many cultivators on the island once again took the boat to the distant sea, intending to start the next day's hunting. Among these cultivators, it was not that no one had completed the hunting mission of 5,000 monsters, but they did not have enough confidence in hunting the monsters on the next island, so they had been staying here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three did not delay at all and directly went to the next island early in the morning. Obviously, the next island also needed to hunt a certain number of monsters before they could continue. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had been hunting wicked beasts on the island, but the strength of the wicked beasts in front of them was a certain gap, so it was not difficult to solve them. However, according to their observations, the amount of monstrous beasts in this training ground was truly not an ordinary amount. Moreover, the types of monstrous beasts were extremely complicated, and they all specialized in different things. We have been hunting demonic beasts for the past few days. We are now on the 5th island. This speed is pretty fast. Xiren smiled faintly as his gaze fell upon the island in the distance. Bachin nodded. These demon beasts are getting stronger and stronger. According to my estimation, we'll have to stay on the next island or the 2nd island. That's right. It's no longer that easy for me to deal with these demonic beasts. I'm afraid I'll have to do my best to deal with them when we reach the next island, Shangguan Yingying said slowly. The further we go, the fewer cultivators there will be on this island. The pressure we will have to bear when hunting demonic beasts will also increase. However, in this way, we can settle on an island and cultivate in peace. It will be of great benefit to our cultivation. Chapter 36:13. Everything went as Di Beichun had expected. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chose the 2nd island. The demonic beasts in the vicinity of the island were extremely powerful. Even with their strength, they had to be careful everywhere. If they were not careful, they would be injured. However, they also knew that only in such an environment could they increase their cultivation at the fastest speed. However, there was one thing that exceeded their expectations. After they stopped on this island, Ao Lingxiao also came to this island. Look, isn't that Ao Lingxiao? Since when did he become so strong? I remember that he had always been training on the 1st island. I don't know. This guy's actions have always been strange. I don't know what kind of opportunity he got, but his strength suddenly increased. The cultivators on the island looked at Ao Ling Xiao with astonishment in their eyes. Ao Ling Xiao's special order to travel alone was very eye-catching in the outer palace. However, no one would find trouble with him on normal days. In this training ground, the further back the island was, the less likely it was for new cultivators to appear. In the past few days, there were only 5 people. They were Bailey Hongzhuang's group and Ao Lingxiao's group. In contrast, the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was not strange, because the strength of these 4 people was indeed very strong, and everyone already knew about it. Then why is Ao Lingxiao following us? I feel that it's very strange. Shangguan Yingying looked at Ao Lingxiao not far away in confusion. Ever since Ao Lingxiao appeared, they felt that everything was very strange. If Ao Lingxiao's inexplicable warning made them feel very strange, but they could still understand it. However, Ao Lingxiao's attention to them and his following them to this island made them feel somewhat puzzled. The most important thing was that Ao Lingxiao had not said anything to them until now, which made them feel very puzzled. Bailey Hongzhuang also had a trace of doubt in her eyes. I also don't understand. Right now, I can be sure that he is following us on purpose. However, I don't know the specific reason. Aside from being taken care of by Master Long, there is nothing special about the 4 of us. Hasn't this guy always been alone and ignored everyone? Now it's really strange. Xiren frowned. Should I go and ask? Di Beichun shook his head. His expression was very calm. Since he took the initiative to follow us, he must have his reasons. If he wants to say it, he will tell us directly. If he doesn't want to say it, you won't be able to get anything out of him. Now, hearing Di Beichun's words, Xiren couldn't help but sigh. He said he was really not as calm as Di Beichun. Aya, how can you guys be so calm? I really can't hold. In the next second, Shangguan Yingying stood up and walked towards Ao Lingxiao. She had to find out what this guy was doing. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying had directly set off, Bailey Hongzhuang was just about to call out to her when she was stopped by Di Beichun. Forget it. Since she wants to go, then let her go. Otherwise, with her personality, I'm afraid she won't be satisfied. Chapter 36:14. Shangguan Yingying walked to Ao Lingxiao's side. Her face was filled with confusion and anger. Ao Lingxiao, why have you been following us? Ao Lingxiao was not surprised by Shangguan Yingying's sudden questioning. I didn't expect you to ask me so soon. I thought you could hold on for a few more days. What nonsense is this? Why do you care when I ask you? Shangguan Yingying's anger turned into anger. Tell me clearly, why have you been following us? No reason. Ao Lingxiao said slowly. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but sneer. Are you kidding? You've been following us for no reason? Don't tell me you have nothing better to do. You can think of it that way. Ao Lingxiao's lips curled into an evil smile. He twirled his messy hair with one hand, looking a little rogue. Looking at Ao Lingxiao like this, Shangguan Yingying only felt the anger in her heart rising. This guy was too hateful. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll treat you as an enemy. Shangguan Yingying's eyes gradually darkened. She didn't have a good temper to accompany Ao Lingxiao here. Ao Lingxiao had been sneaking around without giving a proper reason. She could only treat him as an enemy. Not far away, Ziren saw Shangguan Yingying's gradually darkening expression and couldn't help but frown. It seems that Yingying's inquiry didn't go well. Maybe they'll fight in the next second. I'll go take a look. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and said, let's go together. Okay. When Di Beichen and the others came to Shangguan Yingying's side, they could feel the smell of gunpowder coming from her body. She was obviously enraged. Yingying, what's the situation now? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Shangguan Yingying coldly glanced at Ao Lingxiao. I asked this guy, but he didn't say anything. Ao Lingxiao looked at Di Beichen and the other two with a faint smile. I'm just here to train. Is there a problem? There's naturally no problem for you to cultivate here. Di Beichen's black pupils were as deep and unfathomable as a black hole. He looked at Ao Lingxiao with a gaze that seemed to be able to see through everything. You and I are both smart people. You must have followed us here for a reason. If you don't want us to treat you as an enemy, you might as well tell us. Di Beichen's voice was mild, as if he was chatting casually. However, an invisible pressure quietly spread out. Ao Lingxiao faced Di Beichen's sharp gaze and was ultimately defeated. Forget it. I don't intend to be your enemy. You don't have to mind it too much, Ao Lingxiao said slowly. Then why are you following us? When Ziren followed up with another question, a hint of hesitation quietly appeared on Ao Lingxiao's face. In the end, he said, I've been following you because I want to confirm one thing. When these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but be stunned. They were even more confused in their hearts. They didn't understand what Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm from them. Confirm what? Chapter 36:15. Hearing Ao Lingxiao's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others frowned even more. What is it that you can't say? The puzzlement between when Ziren's brows grew even stronger. You're so strange, it's really too suspicious. I can swear that I have no intention of harming you behind your backs. Otherwise, I'll be struck by lightning. Ao Lingxiao raised 3 fingers and looked serious. If I'm sure of something, I'll tell you immediately. If I'm wrong, I won't disturb you anymore. Seeing this, Ziren couldn't help but look at Di Beichen. He always felt that Ao Lingxiao was weird, which made him very unhappy. Di Beichen stared at Ao Lingxiao. His deep eyes kept changing. I'll believe you for now. I'm indeed trustworthy. Ao Lingxiao's lips curled up. His smile was a bit evil and indifferent. After Di Beichen and the others returned to their original position, Ziren couldn't help but say, Di Beichen, do you really believe this guy? I feel that this guy is too weird. For the time being, I believe him. That guy's appearance is very special. I'm certain that we didn't see Ao Lingxiao in the battle in the outer hall. As of now, I can't think of any reason why he would want to be our enemy. If he really is an enemy, he could hide in the dark and think of ways to deal with us. He wouldn't follow us so openly. The success rate is too low. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Ziren's eyes gradually revealed a look of realization. You're right, but I really don't understand what this guy wants to confirm from us. I don't know either. Di Beichun shook his head. They didn't know Ao Ling Xiao before. What could Ao Ling Xiao want to confirm from them? This was very strange to begin with. In my opinion, let's put this matter aside for now. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. As long as Ao Ling Xiao doesn't cause trouble for us, he can follow us if he wants. It's not a big deal. They were only here to train, so there was no need for them to hide anything. When Shui Changdong found out which island Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had stopped at, his face turned ugly. Brother Shui, they stopped at the 7th island. The strength of the demonic beasts near the 7th island is very strong. Although we can deal with the demonic beasts near the 7th island, it is very dangerous. Everyone should train near the 6th island. Fang Tianyi looked at Shui Changdong. He had never imagined that Di Beichun's group of 4 would be so monstrous as to head to the 7th island. In their team, Shui Changdong's strength was the strongest. Shui Changdong had no problem cultivating near the 7th island, but the other cultivators in their team were not as strong. After all, Shui Changdong was their captain and the strongest. The other teammates were not as strong as Shui Changdong. Chapter 36:16. Although he was very depressed about this, Shui Changdong also understood in his heart that perhaps this was the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were stronger than ordinary cultivators. It was because they were really too desperate. This was a completely masochistic cultivation method. With his strength, he could withstand going to the 7th island, but he needed to be careful everywhere. If he was careless, he would be injured. It was very dangerous. It was precisely because of this that he chose to cultivate on the 6th island. It also had the function of training, but it was safer. It was just that the speed of cultivation would be slightly slower. If they stay on the 7th island, it won't be easy for us to find a way to deal with them. Fang Tianyi looked helpless. He originally thought that this was a good task. Who would have thought that it would be so complicated? It actually made him feel helpless. Shui Changdong's face was slightly gloomy. Originally, he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 would stay on the 6th island. He was most familiar with the 6th island, so it would be much easier for him to find a way to deal with them. He did not expect that things would not go as he wished. The situation was completely complicated. For a moment, Shui Changdong even wanted to tell Peng Kerwei that he could not complete this task because the difficulty was a little too high. However, in the end, after thinking about it, Shui Changdong decided to wait a little longer. He only hoped that a good opportunity would appear in the end. However, at this moment, Peng Lai Palace suddenly issued a new task in this training ground. As soon as this task was announced, all the disciples in the outer palace were attracted by this task. In a short period of time, all the cultivators in the training ground were discussing this new task. Peng Lai Palace has issued a new mission. A new island has suddenly appeared in this training ground. There are many demon beasts gathered on the island. Now, they're issuing a mission for us to go to the island to hunt demon beasts. Shangguan Yingying's eyes lit up. Are you guys interested? I heard that every time a new island appears, there always seems to be some treasure on it. Although I don't know what kind of treasure it is, it's not bad to go and check it out. They had never been well informed, but recently almost all the cultivators were discussing this matter, so they also knew about it. As far as I know, the islands that appear for the first time are usually very dangerous. If you're not careful, you may lose your life. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said, "At present, everyone only knows that a new island has appeared, but we don't know what kind of demonic beasts are on this island. We still have to be more careful." Di Beichun nodded slightly. Indeed, we'd better not act rashly before figuring out the specific situation. The more information we have, the more insurance we can have. No matter what, this was the first time they had come to this training ground. They didn't know much about the situation here, and they didn't know what the situation was like when a new island appeared. Plus, it was obvious that no one would tell them about the previous situation, so they couldn't act rashly for the time being. Now, many cultivators are ready to make a move. They're thinking about how and when to head to the new island. "Let's act according to the situation," Wen Xiren said. Chapter 36:17. I didn't expect God to treat us so well. Now, such a great opportunity has appeared. Shui Changdong clapped his hands. His originally ugly face instantly regained its vigor. It was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He was originally reluctant to give up the reward after success. Moreover, he didn't know how to explain to Peng Kairue if he gave up. Now that such an opportunity had appeared, it was simply pointing him in the right direction. Brother Shui, although the appearance of a new island is indeed an opportunity, the strength of the demonic beasts on each new island is very powerful. I'm afraid that even if we go there, it won't be easy to find an opportunity to take action. Fang Tiany's brows were still furrowed. He didn't understand why Shui Changdong was suddenly so excited. It was as if he already knew that they would succeed. No matter what, such an opportunity has appeared. It's better than us not knowing what to do before. Shui Changdong's face was still filled with joy. Originally, it wouldn't be easy to just rely on us to set them up. But now, almost all the cultivators will go to the new island. The size of the island isn't small. Everyone's actions will definitely be very chaotic. We can take this opportunity to think of a way to set them up. Maybe we don't even need to do anything. Just by relying on the power of the demonic beasts, we can accomplish all of this effortlessly. Brother Shui is right. At least we still have a chance of success. Every time a new island appears, a lot of cultivators will die. It's already very dangerous. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three don't have any allies. As long as no one helps them, our actions will be very easy. Hearing that, Fang Tiany nodded. Indeed, I hope they will also appear on the new island. Not long after the mission was released, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three noticed that many cultivators on the 7th island had stood up and decided to go to the new island. It was said that the rewards for killing the demonic beasts on the new island would be very generous. Anyway, everyone had to risk their lives to hunt demonic beasts here. Going to the new island was also risking their lives. Since the danger was similar, naturally, they would choose the place with higher benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three weren't in a hurry. However, not long after, all the cultivators on the 7th island had left. The originally lively island suddenly became deserted. However, at that moment, other than Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, there was still one person who hadn't left. That person was Ao Ling Xiao. Seeing that Ao Ling Xiao was still there, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask, "Hey, everyone has already set off for the new island. Why are you still here?" "I'm not interested in the new island. I'm only interested in you guys." The corner of Ao Ling Xiao's lips curled up. "If you go, I'll go with you. If you don't, I won't go either." Looking at Ao Ling Xiao's indifferent expression, Shangguan Yingying rolled her eyes. Incurable. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were somewhat helpless towards Ao Ling Xiao. They didn't know what this guy was really doing, but they could still feel that Ao Ling Xiao really didn't have any intention of harming them. "Let's go," Di Beichun said slowly. "Since everyone has already set off, there's no point in us staying here. Why don't we go and take a look?" Chapter 36:18. After seeing Di Beichun and the other three set off, Ao Ling Xiao stood up and followed behind Di Beichun and the other three. Sitting on the small boat, Shangguan Yingying looked at the small boat that was following them with a helpless expression. This Ao Ling Xiao is really a follower. Are you going to let him continue to follow us like this? What else can we do? Di Beichun raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. "I think there must be something wrong with this guy's sneaky behavior. Why don't we capture him and interrogate him? We'll definitely know the answer." Shangguan Yingying squinted her eyes, and a ruthless look flashed across her eyes. Xiren shook his head and said, "Forget it. According to Beichun and my observation, this guy is probably stronger than us. It's impossible to capture him and interrogate him." "Stronger than us?" Shangguan Yingying was stunned. "Is that true? If this guy is so strong, why is he still an Outer Palace disciple? There must be a reason." Di Beichun said slowly, "He's alone. Although the Outer Palace disciples dare to talk about him, none of them are enemies with him. He must be capable. That's why you can conclude that he doesn't have the intention to harm us. Otherwise, with his strength, he could just attack us directly. There's no need for him to go through so much trouble. Am I right?" Bailey Hongzhuang said. Di Beichun smiled elegantly and nodded. "That's right. so let's just let it be. It's hard to believe that such a sloppy guy is an expert. Shangguan Yingying shook her head and still had a look of disbelief on her face. You can't judge a book by its cover. The new island was not far away from the seventh island. It didn't take long for the four of them to arrive. Looking around, they realized that there were many cultivators gathered on the new island. Almost all the cultivators in the outer palace who were free were there. Wow, there are so many people here, Shangguan Yingying exclaimed. From the looks of it, there must be many cultivators who came here from the outer palace after seeing the mission. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, and in her line of sight, there were already a lot of cultivators gathered on the periphery of the island. Indeed, the reward for this task is not low. Presumably, as long as the cultivators are not in seclusion, they have all come. Let's go up and take a look. I wonder what kind of monsters are on this new island. Xiren said with a smile. After putting away the boat, the four of them squeezed into the large group. As they gradually walked forward, they finally found out about the monsters on the island. Six-legged bright scorpion, Di Beichan said slowly. The six-legged bright scorpion strength is equivalent to a purple realm 5th level cultivator. Everyone can deal with it. I just hope that the eight-legged bright scorpion won't appear here. The eight-legged bright scorpion strength is equivalent to a purple realm 6th level cultivator. There are so many monsters on this island. If an eight-legged bright scorpion appears, the danger level will increase by a lot. All the cultivators of Penglai Island had reached the 5th level of the purple realm. The cultivators of Penglai Palace were even stronger than the average 5th level of the purple realm. Chapter 3619. Once surrounded by the 8-footed bright scorpions, even a purple realm 7th level or purple realm 8th level cultivator would find it hard to survive. Hearing Di Beichan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other with a serious expression. The current situation wasn't clear yet. If it was only the 6-footed bright scorpions, they wouldn't have to worry too much. However, if it was the 8-footed bright scorpions, they would have to be careful. Even if they had a treasure like the Chaos Ring, they couldn't use it in front of everyone, so they had to be careful. Aoling Xiao was still following behind Di Beichan's group of four. Many cultivators, after seeing this scene, had a thick look of surprise on their faces. Hasn't Aoling Xiao always been alone? Why is he with Di Beichan's group now? Di Beichan's group has always been a team of four. Other than Li Shangkai, who died in their hands, I haven't seen them close to any other cultivators in the Outer Palace. Maybe they're facing each other. Because they usually don't interact with other cultivators, it makes sense that they're together now. If that's the case, then it's interesting. Aoling Xiao's strength isn't weak. With the 5 of them together, they're even stronger. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but frown when she saw that everyone had grouped them together. They weren't together with Aoling Xiao, this weird guy. Aoling Xiao ignored everyone's gazes. It was as if it had nothing to do with him, no matter how they looked at it. On this new island, the reward for killing a 6-footed bright scorpion is equivalent to killing 4 demonic beasts on other islands. This reward can be said to be 4 times greater. That's right, this is a good opportunity. As long as we can kill more 6-footed bright scorpions, we can exchange them for treasures when we return. Although they would soon have to fight with demonic beasts, many cultivators present were very excited because the reward was very generous. As long as they exchanged for enough cultivation resources, they could increase their breakthrough speed. Looks like we have to work hard to hunt more demonic beasts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and looked around. Almost all the surrounding cultivators had a strong fighting spirit in their eyes, as if they were ready to fight against the 6-footed bright scorpion. When Xiren nodded, this island is extremely large. If the entire island is filled with 6-footed bright scorpions, their numbers would be terrifying. According to the information I've learned, it seems that every time a new island appears in this training ground, the disciples of Penglai Palace will clear out the monsters on this island together and then gradually transform it into a new island that can be trained on. I see. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. There are too many demonic beasts on this island. Only by working together can we quickly get rid of these demonic beasts. If there are too few people, it will be impossible to get rid of them. The cultivators of Penglai Palace did not waste any time and immediately approached the inner part of the island. At the same time, the aura of Yuanli fluctuated continuously. Any team of six-footed bright scorpions that they encountered had already started fighting. Battle circles had already formed. Chapter 36:20. The battle broke out on this new island. The disciples of Penglai Palace had already surrounded the entire island and were constantly attacking inside. Various kinds of powerful yuan, qi undulations rippled out unceasingly. Various kinds of splendid martial skills were displayed unceasingly. The sound of explosions resounded loudly, and the entire island seemed to have started to tremble. This kind of battle was undoubtedly extremely shocking. The fluctuations of the battle were even more terrifying. At this time, almost everyone had put down their personal grudges. Everyone's goal was to eliminate the six-footed bright scorpions in front of them. The six-footed bright scorpions obviously hated the human cultivators who suddenly appeared in front of them. They were constantly attacking the human cultivators. A strong smell of blood drifted on this island. The ground was gradually dyed red with blood. The corpses of the six-footed bright scorpions fell one by one. However, in this process, many cultivators were injured or even died. Bailey Hongzhuang's team of 4 was undoubtedly the weakest among the many teams. However, their fighting strength was also very strong. A.O. Lingxiao still disdained to team up with other cultivators at this time. He was still alone, as if he was already used to all of this. However, in this situation where it was easy to be surrounded by the six-footed bright scorpions, A.O. Lingxiao was very dangerous alone. Fortunately, he was quite strong and was not injured. Di Beichun looked at A.O. Lingxiao not far away and suddenly said, A.O. Lingxiao, if you don't mind, let's temporarily team up on this island. How about it? A.O. Lingxiao, who was in the middle of the battle, couldn't help but be stunned after hearing Di Beichun's words. His eyes flashed with deep surprise. He instinctively wanted to refuse, but after seeing Di Beichun's sincere gaze, he thought for a moment and nodded. Okay. He understood that Di Beichun wanted him to join the team, not because Di Beichun's team was lacking in manpower, but because Di Beichun wanted to help him. With his current situation, although there was no problem dealing with these six-footed bright scorpions, he was naturally not as safe as a team working together. Moreover, the reason why he was still able to cope now was that his origin power was extremely sufficient. However, as the battle dragged on, he would no longer have the peak battle prowess that he had now. At that time, he would definitely be surrounded by danger. It was because of this that Di Beichun asked him to join the team. If he had seen pity or sympathy in Di Beichun's eyes, he would have disdained it. However, Di Beichun did not. He had only chosen to join because he saw sincerity and appreciation in Di Beichun's eyes. A smile suddenly appeared on that unrestrained and unruly face. The reason he had been following Di Beichun was to confirm one thing, but now that he gradually understood Di Beichun's character, he suddenly felt a sense of admiration. Although this young fellow had a devilish face that made people very unhappy, it was hard not to admire his character. Smart, wise, and steady. With all these characteristics gathered in one person, it was truly perfect. Perhaps it was indeed a good choice to be friends with them. Chapter 36:21. Shouldn't you be the one who's distracted? How do you know I'm distracted if you don't look at me? A.O. Lingxiao looked at Shangguan Yingying with a faint smile. There was still a trace of evil and unruly smile on his lips, but there was a trace of sincerity in his eyes. Shangguan Yingying was stunned. I'm too lazy to care about you. I'm too lazy to look at you. The cultivators of Penglai Palace were indeed powerful. Their combat power was much stronger than the cultivators of the outside world. This could be seen from the efficiency of the battle. The six-footed scorpion was considered very powerful among the Red Realm Level 5 cultivators. Ordinary Purple Realm Level 5 cultivators would have to struggle to deal with the six-footed scorpion, but it was not difficult for the disciples of Penglai Palace to deal with it. Our progress is not slow. If we continue to sweep at this speed, I'm afraid we can kill all the six-footed scorpions on this island in less than a month. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face had a bright smile. Fortunately, this new island was not dangerous. Shangguan Yingying nodded. It should be so. After this mission is over, let's go back to Penglai Palace to rest. With their ability, it was not unusual for them to be outside. It was just that they wanted to go back and relax after staying here for so long. Okay, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When the time comes, we can ask Ao Lingxiao if he has confirmed what he wants to confirm. With that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but turn to Ao Lingxiao. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, Ao Lingxiao was slightly stunned and said, "What I said is not so easy to confirm. This matter is very important. I must confirm it before I say it. However, after this matter is said, it depends on whether you agree or not." Di Beichen raised his good-looking eyebrows, his brow furrowed in thought. "That depends on what you want to tell us. If I confirm it, it is related to you." As Ao Lingxiao's voice fell, the relaxed expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but change. Their eyes then condensed on Ao Lingxiao. If this matter was related to Bailey Hongzhuang, Wen Ziren, or even Shangguan Yingying, they would not care too much because they were sure that they had no interaction with Ao Lingxiao before. What Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm was probably related to Master Long. However, now that Ao Lingxiao said that this matter was related to Di Beichen, then this was not necessarily the case. Di Beichen's origin until now. They always thought that the reason why Di Beichen for so many years had no news of his parents was that his parents on Penglai Island. It was precisely because it was isolated from the outside world that Si Tuyin had spent so many years helping to search for any useful information. Could it be that Ao Lingxiao knew something about Di Beichen's origin? After Ao Lingxiao noticed the sudden change in the gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. His originally uncertain expression seemed to have become a bit more certain. "It's related to me?" Di Beichen's eyes gradually deepened. "You and I have no relationship before. What you want to say is related to me." Chapter 36:22. Brother Shui, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the other three actually formed a team with Ao Lingxiao. This is really strange. Didn't Ao Lingxiao never form a team with anyone? Looking at them, they seem to be chatting happily. Fong Tianyi frowned. Shui Changdong's face also revealed a puzzled expression. Ao Lingxiao's actions this time are really strange. Although this guy's temperament is very strange, his strength is not weak. Now that he has formed a team with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, this will undoubtedly add some trouble to our next operation. Looking at the five figures chatting happily in the distance, Shui Changdong gradually frowned. He realized that the situation was really getting more and more troublesome. Originally, it was very difficult to get rid of Di Beichen and Ziren. Now that Ao Lingxiao had joined, none of the three people were simple. Moreover, he still had to keep Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying, which undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the matter. Brother Shui, I also observed their battle today. From their performance, the six-footed bright scorpion doesn't seem to be difficult for them. It seems that it won't be easy for us to get rid of them with the help of the six-footed bright scorpion. Fong Tianyi now felt that the difficulty of this matter was too high. Even if the reward was rich, it would not be worth it if they suffered a double loss. "Don't worry, I found another thing today." Shui Changdong smiled. "What is it?" "This island not only has the six-footed bright scorpion, but also the eight-footed bright scorpion." Once this was said, Fong Tianyi and the other cultivators could not help but be stunned. Their faces suddenly became nervous. Eight-footed bright scorpion? That's right. When I went deeper today, I found the existence of the eight-footed bright scorpion. Currently, everyone only saw the periphery of the island and is not clear about the situation inside. If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid that only the periphery of the island has the six-footed bright scorpion, but the inside of the island is the eight-footed bright scorpion. Shui Changdong glanced at everyone and continued. If the six-footed bright scorpion cannot cause trouble for them, the eight-footed bright scorpion is not so easy to deal with. Once everyone knew about this situation, they would definitely choose to join forces to deal with the demonic beasts. At that time, I can suggest that the male disciples lead the way while the female disciples bring up the rear. I believe that no one will reject this suggestion. Only in this way can we successfully separate them. As long as they separate, I will guide Di Bachin and the others to the gathering place of the eight-legged bright scorpions. Once they are surrounded, so what if they are strong? They won't be able to make it out alive. The corners of Xue Changdong's mouth curled up slightly. The malicious and ruthless light in his eyes grew even more intense. However, he was secretly delighted in his heart. He had thought for a long time before coming up with such a foolproof plan. The eyes of Feng Tianyi and the others lit up, and they instantly gained a bit of confidence. Brother Xue, your idea is really great. If everything really goes as planned, then we will definitely succeed. As long as we're able to complete this mission, Senior Brother Peng and the others will definitely value us even more in the future. In the future, we'll be able to receive their care after we go to the inner hall. That's undoubtedly the best outcome. Xue Changdong chuckled. Chapter 36:23. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5, along with many cultivators from the Penglai Outer Palace, hunted wicked beasts on the new island. Whenever their Yuanli was exhausted, everyone would retreat some distance to cultivate and restore their Yuanli. On this day, everyone continued to advance into the island as usual. Although only 7 days had passed, the number of 6-footed bright scorpions that died every day was astonishing. Because of this, everyone also deeply understood the huge reproductive ability of monsters. The number of 6-footed bright scorpions on the entire island could be said to be terrifying. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were fighting with the wicked beasts, a cry of surprise came from the front. 8-footed bright scorpions! There are 8-footed bright scorpions among the monsters. Hearing this cry, the surrounding cultivators couldn't help but be stunned. Then, their eyes flashed with deep surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't expect 8-footed bright scorpions to appear. Beichun, your judgment is right. 8-footed bright scorpions really appeared. It seems that the next cleanup work won't be so easy. Ziren looked at Di Beichun and sighed. Di Beichun's eyes became more serious. It seems that these 8-footed bright scorpions are probably in the center of the island. Everyone has to be more careful if they continue to fight. If we're surrounded by 8-footed bright scorpions, even the 5 of us won't have a good time. Don't worry, we will just follow the team. Generally, there won't be any problems. Ao Lingxiao seemed very indifferent, as if he didn't care about this news at all. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao still didn't care, Di Beichun and the others smiled faintly and shook their heads. They didn't know when Ao Lingxiao's indifferent temperament started. They really couldn't imagine what could make Ao Lingxiao care. Feeling the gaze of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but say, "Everyone came here to hunt monsters to get more points. There's no need to lose your life for this. I don't like to be a hero, and I don't like to look at other people's high and mighty leaders. I'm just happy and carefree by myself." "You're carefree." Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly raised. Ao Lingxiao's words explained why he was always alone. But thinking about it, she felt that Ao Lingxiao's view was very clear. In comparison, perhaps their obsession was deeper, so they couldn't be so carefree and indifferent to everything. However, although your temperament is carefree, I think there are still some things in your heart that you can't see through of things. Ao Lingxiao, Ao Lingxiao, Ao of Ao Lingxiao. Of Ao. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but be stunned. He saw the wisdom and understanding in the former's eyes, as if she had seen through everything. Suddenly, Ao Lingxiao laughed in a low voice. "I suddenly understand why Master Long looks at you in a different light. You are indeed powerful." Seeing that Ao Lingxiao had indirectly admitted to his words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile quietly widened. In this world, even the most carefree person would have some things that they couldn't let go of. Chapter 36:24. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to advance, They would occasionally see an 8-footed bright scorpion among the 6-footed bright scorpions. Seeing this scene, they also understood that this should be the gathering place of the 6-footed bright scorpions. It was just that some 8-footed bright scorpions would occasionally appear here. Only when they went deeper would they enter the territory of the 8-footed bright scorpions. Because there weren't many 8-footed bright scorpions, it wasn't difficult for them to deal with them. It was just that their advancement speed would be slightly slower than a few days ago. Gradually, the cultivators of the Penglai Outer Palace found it more and more difficult to deal with the 6-footed bright scorpions because the number of 8-footed bright scorpions was gradually increasing. On this day, Xue Changdong proposed that the stronger male cultivators lead the way in front because the 8-footed bright scorpions were appearing more and more frequently. Moreover, they didn't seem to be evenly distributed. There were more and less of them. Therefore, everyone had to explore the path first. After exploring where it was more dangerous, everyone would deal with it together. The female cultivators were mostly weaker than the male cultivators, so it was more appropriate for them to take care of the fish that got caught in the net at the back. Following Xue Changdong's suggestion, most of the cultivators present nodded in agreement. At this moment, everyone was a disciple of the Penglai Palace. Naturally, they needed to work together to deal with these monsters. In the past, the cultivators of the Penglai Palace would often make the same arrangements when they encountered such a situation. I didn't expect Xue Changdong to be so protective of the fairer sex. He actually proposed to let the female cultivators stay at the back. This way, I'm afraid many female disciples have a very good impression of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile as she spoke slowly. Ao Lingxiao casually glanced at Xue Changdong, who was not far away, and said, "This guy usually likes to act like a hero. However, his strength is also one of the top in the Outer Palace, so his words have a lot of appeal. Don't talk about others. In my opinion, he might be much better than you." Shangguan Yingying shrugged. Ao Lingxiao suddenly smiled sarcastically. "You're blind. According to my understanding, although this guy looks dignified on the surface, he has done a lot of bad things behind the scenes. Most of the time, it's this gentlemanly appearance that makes it easy to trick people. If it was someone like me, I'm afraid no one would believe me." Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but be stunned by Ao Lingxiao's words. She felt that Ao Lingxiao's words were very reasonable. "You know yourself. Well, with your appearance, no one will pay attention to you. Of course I know myself. I never ask about anything that has nothing to do with me, whether it's murder or arson. Whether it's a gentleman or a despicable person, it's enough for me to see through them. If others can't see through them, they deserve trouble." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chun looked at each other, and then looked at Xue Changdong in the distance. From information revealed by Ao Lingxiao, this Xue Changdong was not a good person. Although Xue Changdong looked righteous and awe-inspiring, compared to the wanton and unrestrained Ao Lingxiao, they still believed in Ao Lingxiao. Chapter 36-25. That's right. The decision of the other female cultivators has nothing to do with us. In any case, the 5 of us should stick together. Shangguan Yingying nodded. Their group was already very small. If they were to split up now, the number of people would be even smaller. Although many cultivators were standing on the same side, no one knew if they would really stick together when the time came. In the end, it was safer for them to stick together. Moreover, they were already hated in the Outer Palace. In such a chaotic situation, they might be killed. Hearing Shangguan Yingying's words, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but look at her in surprise. He didn't think that Shangguan Yingying, who had always acted like she didn't care about him, would actually treat him as a teammate at a time like this. While the 5 of them were talking, the cultivators present had also made their choices. Soon, the male cultivators and female cultivators automatically split up. The male cultivators walked to the front while the female cultivators stayed behind. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 also walked to the group of male cultivators. Many cultivators noticed the actions of Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5, and a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. Clearly, they didn't expect them to make such a choice. Bailey Hongzhuang's group is really unique. Others can't join them. I think only a guy like Ao Lingxiao can blend in with them. That's not it. I think their relationship with the inner palace cultivators is pretty good. Now that everyone is split up, they still haven't made any moves. It's really Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood quietly in the same place. The words of others did not affect them in the slightest. In fact, they were already used to the criticism of the crowd. They had long been accustomed to it. Xue Changdong originally thought that his suggestion was extremely good. This way, he could justifiably split up Bailey Hongzhuang and Shang Waningying from the group. It would be much easier for him to make a move on Deep Beichen and Shang Waningying. However, Xue Changdong realized that the five of them were still in the same group as before. They did not seem to have the slightest intention of splitting up. Xue Changdong could not help but frown. The next moment, Xue Changdong walked quickly to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and said, "Are you dissatisfied with my suggestion? Everyone is already separated. Why are you still like this?" "No." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "The reason why senior brother Xue let the female cultivator stand at the back is undoubtedly to protect us. However, we are already used to being in the same team. Besides, we are not afraid of danger, so let's explore the way for everyone." Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant and refined face rippled with a smile as elegant as a lotus. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were reasonable and justified. In a few words, she explained their behavior, making people unable to find any fault. Everyone, who thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would definitely ignore them, couldn't help but be stunned at this moment. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually explain this matter. It seemed that she was much easier to get along with than they thought. From the moment these four people entered Penglai Palace until now, what everyone saw was the strong side they showed in battle. Every time they met, it was either a battle or a conflict. Everyone really didn't have any understanding of their true character. Chapter 36-26. Looking at the beautiful face in front of him, Xue Changdong's expression couldn't help but pause. His eyes couldn't help but flash with a touch of amazement. He already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was beautiful, but for him, nothing was more important than strength. In addition, he also knew in his heart that he wasn't worthy of a woman like Bailey Hongzhuang. However, at this moment, when he saw the perfect face at such a close distance, he couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. Too beautiful. He had never seen such a perfect face. There was no lack of charm in the elegance, no lack of nobility in the elegance. It was as if there was magic. As long as one looked at it, it would be unforgettable. At this moment, when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's light and sweet voice, Xue Changdong only felt that he was almost bewitched. "Brother Xue." Fang Tian saw that Xue Changdong began to be in a daze and couldn't help but remind him in a low voice. Only then did Xue Changdong come back to his senses. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, he had already regained his senses. "Junior sister Bailey, what you said is very reasonable. However, now that everyone is following this rule, if you are too independent, it doesn't seem too appropriate. After all, once you are an exception, other cultivators may follow suit. In this way, the rule will be broken, and the following things will not be convenient to continue. In order to let this matter proceed properly, I hope the two of you can understand." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly frowned. She didn't think that this matter was a big deal at all. However, at this moment, after Xue Changdong raised the matter to such a high level, she didn't know how to refute. Shang Waningying's face also looked a little ugly. "This Xue Changdong is beating around the bush to put such a big label on us. If we refuse, isn't it the same as making this label true? I said earlier that this kind of guy is best at this kind of method. As long as you don't agree, he will directly put the label of not cooperating with you. In this way, it seems polite, but it is full of coercion." Ao Lingxiao shrugged and said. Xue Changdong's face was rippling with a smile. He believed that under such circumstances, the other party could no longer refuse. "So be it," Ziren said. "You'll be safe if you stay behind. Besides, this isn't a big deal. We'll meet again when the time comes." Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Deep Beichen. Deep Beichen also nodded. "It's fine." Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "All right then." Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying slowly walked out of the group and joined the women's group at the back. The smile on Xue Changdong's face gradually widened. He cupped his hands towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and said, "Thank you for your cooperation, junior brothers and sisters." Standing in the female team, Bailey Hongzhuang's tightly furrowed brows did not loosen. "This situation reminds me of the time when I was training in the Inner Palace. At that time, she said that if there was danger in the future, she would definitely not be separated from everyone. However, now she was stuck again. The last time they went out, it was an act of suicide. However, from what I see, this island is not that dangerous. Besides, there are so many cultivators here. Nothing will happen." Shangguan Yingying comforted. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "That's true. This new island is indeed much safer. That's why I agreed." Chapter 36:27. Master, I feel that there's something wrong with the way Xue Changdong looks at you. Xiaohei sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and dangled her 2 feet, a puzzled look on her face. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but chuckle. That's because he's taken a fancy to Hongzhuang. Previously, his eyes were staring straight at Hongzhuang as if he had lost his soul. Xue Changdong's absent-mindedness was extremely obvious. If it weren't for the cultivator beside him reminding him, it was unknown when he would have regained his senses. "That's true." Xiaohei chuckled. "Master's charm is indeed amazing. What nonsense are you all talking about?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, a hint of helplessness on her pretty face. Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows and chuckled. "I'm telling the truth. However, Hongzhuang, you're really the most beautiful person I've seen in all these years. Back then, I thought that Beichin was so good-looking that I was afraid that no woman in this world could match him. It wasn't until I met you that I realized that there was actually someone who could match him so well." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. When she first met Di Beichun, she was also shocked. She never thought that the scoundrel who called her his wife would actually become her true love. "Since everyone has been divided into teams, let's begin." Suddenly, Xue Changdong's voice came from the front. After receiving everyone's response, everyone continued to advance towards the inner part of the island. "Brother Xue, now that we've successfully separated them, the next step should be very smooth, right?" Fong Tiany's eyes shone brightly, and his face was filled with an unconcealable smile. Now, everything was ready, except for the east wind. Xue Changdong nodded. "That's right. I've already told Di Beichin and the rest to move towards the place with the most 8-legged bright scorpions. Later, we'll be not far from them and take the opportunity to push them forward. This way, we'll be able to complete the task." Brother Xue is wise. Everyone thought that such a troublesome matter would be solved by Brother Xue's little trick. "I'm really impressed." Xue Changdong smiled proudly. "The most important thing in Penglai Palace is the brain. As long as you're willing to use your brain, you'll get twice the result with half the effort. When we return, the cultivation resources promised by Senior Peng will also be ours. Let's strive to enter the Inner Palace successfully during the Inner Palace assessment. With Brother Xue's ability, there won't be any problems with entering the palace." In the blink of an eye, these groups, theirs, and the others of his. In just a blink of an eye, ants, there's really a lot of cultivators here. We've been squeezing and we've disappeared. Shangguan Yingying looked ahead in surprise. Looking at the unfamiliar figures in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. "Yingying, let's look for Di Beichin's. I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling." Chapter 36:28. When Xue Changdong saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were no longer behind him, his lips slowly curled into a sinister smile, and his eyes became brighter. Earlier on, he had already bribed some cultivators to deliberately confuse everyone. Only by doing so could he completely separate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Otherwise, if Di Beichin and the others were in danger and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others ran over, wouldn't his previous plan be in vain? Di Beichin and the other two cleared the monsters in front of them and did not pay much attention to the back. They knew that with Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying's strength, there was no danger at the back of the group. The number of eight-legged bright scorpions is increasing, Di Beichan said as he fought. Xiren nodded with a solemn expression. Indeed, we have already encountered 3 eight-legged bright scorpions along the way. It has only been an hour, and they have not appeared so frequently in the past few days. In my opinion, our opponents will completely become the eight-legged bright scorpions in a few days. These guys are very difficult to deal with. A.O. Lingxiao frowned. If it was not for Di Beichan and the others, he would not like to join in the fun. As Di Beichan and the others gradually went deeper, they suddenly realized that the eight-legged bright scorpions appeared more frequently. It went from 2 or 3 at the beginning to 5, 6, 7, or 8. Most importantly, these eight-legged bright scorpions appeared at the same time. As a result, they could not help but feel the pressure. The eight-legged bright scorpion strength was equivalent to a Purple Realm 6th level cultivator. Although Xiren had the ability to fight above his level, with so many of them appearing, it was difficult for him to deal with them. Something is wrong with this situation. Di Beichan stopped and looked ahead with a complicated expression. According to our judgment, the eight-legged bright scorpions should appear in a few days. Why is it like this now? When Xiren was also somewhat puzzled. I don't know either. We've been separated from the main group for quite a while, but judging from the battle fluctuations coming from the others, it seems that the situation they've encountered isn't as complicated as ours. Could it be that there are more eight-legged bright scorpions in our direction? A.O. Lingxiao frowned. The direction we are in seems to have been pointed out by Shui Changdong. Have you offended Shui Changdong before? No. Di Beichan shook his head and said with certainty. Although we have offended many people in the Outer Palace, we have never seen Shui Changdong. Maybe I'm thinking too much. A.O. Lingxiao shrugged and shook his head. Since there was no conclusion, they continued to walk forward. Moreover, there were more than 10 cultivators beside them. As long as they were not surrounded by eight-legged bright scorpions, there would be no problem. Brother Shui, the eight-legged bright scorpion's nest is in front. If Di Beichan and the others walk in, it will be like poking a hornet's nest. Let's not continue forward. Shui Changdong looked ahead. Let them go in by themselves. We will stay here. If they escape, we will guard here and throw them back. Brother Shui, they have more than 10 cultivators with them. What about them? Feng Tianyi could not help but ask. Chapter 36:29. Di Beichan and the others continued to move forward. Suddenly, the movement in front of them became louder. Seeing this, they couldn't help but stop and look in front of them. There seems to be something wrong in front. It seems like there are many monsters approaching us. There were already many monsters in front. Why did the numbers suddenly increase? Xiren frowned. I think this situation is a bit strange. Why don't we retreat and be careful? Di Beichan nodded. That's right. This situation is indeed a bit strange. Let's wait for a while. However, when Di Beichan suggested that everyone wait for a while, the other cultivators didn't seem to care. Didn't everyone say that Di Beichan and the others are very powerful? Looking at their current performance, I really can't tell. So what if there are many monsters in front of us? It's just a 6-footed bright scorpion. If one comes, we'll kill one. If a group comes, we'll kill a group. There's no need to be afraid. I don't know what Master Long sees in them. In my opinion, I'm much better than them. Di Beichan raised his beautiful eyebrows, but ignored the sarcastic words of the crowd. He turned to Xiren and A.O. Lingxiao and said, We'll wait here for a while. Don't worry. In this kind of dangerous situation, he didn't want to let his emotions affect his decisions. Hong Zhuang was still waiting for him. Since the last incident, he promised Hong Zhuang that he wouldn't easily take risks. He didn't want Hong Zhuang to worry. Okay, Xiren and A.O. Lingxiao nodded together. They also had a bad feeling in their hearts. In this kind of situation, there was no need to show off. When the crowd saw that Di Beichan and the others had stopped, their footsteps paused slightly. Then, they threw a disdainful look at Di Beichan and the others and continued to move forward. Shui Changdong and the others obviously didn't think that Di Beichan and the others' intuition would be so accurate. They actually chose to stop here. Oh no, if they stop here, won't they not fall into our trap? Fong Tianyi was a little flustered. It wasn't easy for them to come up with such a foolproof plan. They were about to succeed, but they didn't expect the other party to suddenly stop. Shui Changdong couldn't help but be stunned. How can this be? While Di Bei-chun and the other two were thinking about the situation in front of them, they suddenly heard a slight sound coming from behind them. The three of them couldn't help but look at each other. Along the way, all the demon beasts behind them had been beheaded by them. It was impossible for any more demon beasts to appear. If that was the case, then there was only one possibility. What appeared behind them wasn't a demonic beast, but a human. Why are there people behind us? Di Bei-chun winked, and the three of them immediately went into hiding. Shui Changdong and the others were just thinking about countermeasures, but when they looked again, they found that Di Bei-chun and the other two had already disappeared. How can this be? Where are they? Shui Changdong was slightly startled. He kept looking around. This situation was really unexpected. Fong Tianyi looked around and didn't see Di Bei-chun and the others. He couldn't help but ask, could they have continued to move forward? Chapter 36:30. Di Bei-chun and the other two hid behind the trees and finally saw the figures of Shui Changdong and the others. A trace of confusion appeared on their faces. Didn't you say that you didn't have any interactions with them? But they're clearly here for you. A.O. Lingxiao tilted his head and looked at Di Bei-chun and Ziren beside him. His evil face was filled with confusion. I can confirm that I didn't have any interactions with Shui Changdong and the others before, but I don't understand why they would target us. Di Bei-chun's eyes flashed with a thoughtful light. It was because he was sure that he had never offended Shui Changdong that he was so relaxed all the way. He didn't expect that he would be schemed against in the end. A.O. Lingxiao, do you have any conflict with him? Ziren couldn't help but ask. A.O. Lingxiao chuckled. Do you think that they would go through so much trouble to deal with a lone guy like me? That's strange. Ziren's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. Could it be that they are avenging someone else? I don't think so. A.O. Lingxiao shook his head. In this Penglai palace, everyone only cares about their own interests. Apart from their own loved ones, no one would do such a strenuous and unrewarding thing. You are people that Master Long thinks highly of, so there is no need for them to offend you for some friend. At this time, Di Bei-chun's deep and magnetic voice suddenly rang out. I'm afraid their target is Hong Zhuang and Ying. As soon as these words came out, Ziren's expression suddenly changed, and Di Bei-chun continued to speak. Previously, Shui Changdong deliberately suggested that we separate the men and women. Logically speaking, Hong Zhuang and the others insisted on being with us, so there shouldn't be any problems. But Shui Changdong put a hat on them, so they had no choice but to leave the team. Now they're here to deal with us. Isn't it because of Hong Zhuang and Ying? Di Bei-chun narrowed his long and narrow eyes. His pupils, which were as deep as the sea, quietly flashed with a ruthless light. If they want to deal with him, he would not be so angry. But the other party actually dared to have designs on his wife. That was absolutely unforgivable. A.O. Lingxiao lowered his eyes and pondered for a moment before saying, that is very likely. Both of your wives are graceful and outstanding. Among the 3,000 female disciples of Penglai Palace, their appearances are among the best. It is not strange for men to covet them. Damn it, he actually dares to have designs on my Ying. I must dig out his eyeballs and see if he still dares to have such thoughts. Ziren's originally gentle face instantly became fierce. Although he usually looked indifferent, it was different when it came to his wife. He and Ying usually quarreled, but the more they quarreled, the better their relationship became. Ying's position in his heart was incomparable to anyone else's. Since someone dared to have designs on his Ying, he must take the other party's life. A.O. Lingxiao, who originally didn't care too much, suddenly realized that the two people in front of him were emitting a fierce aura. Their eyes were as sharp as knives, and murderous intent rose in their eyes, causing people to feel cold all over. Suddenly, he put away the joking expression on his face. It seemed that the other party's actions had touched Di Bei-chun and Ying's reverse scale. Chapter 36-31. From the looks of it, are you going to fight to the death with them? Of course. Di Beichun raised his head. His handsome and flawless face was filled with fierceness and murderous intent. His wife had always been his reverse scale. No one could touch her. No, they couldn't even think about it. Xiren's lips slowly curled into a sinister smile that was different from before. It seems that what we did in the outer hall wasn't enough. Someone actually dares to have designs on us. A.O. Lingxiao looked at the murderous duo in front of him and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. With your wife's looks, I'm afraid she has a lot of troubles. Troubles? Xiren raised his eyebrows and glanced at A.O. Lingxiao. A bachelor like you won't understand. A.O. Lingxiao paused. The corner of his lips twitched. Are you mocking me? You'll naturally understand when you have a wife. Di Beichun cut in again. Even though they had already made up their minds, Di Beichun and the others didn't act immediately. They also wanted to see what the other party had planned. Let's go and take a look. Shui Changdong couldn't help but say after checking for a while and not finding Di Beichun and the other two. Brother Shui, the eight-legged scorpion's nest is not far ahead. It's very dangerous for us to go there now. Fang Tianyi was a little resistant. The eight-legged scorpion's nest was a very terrifying place. Shui Changdong's face was clouded. Nonsense, of course I know it's dangerous. However, if we let them escape today, it will be difficult to take their lives in the future. If they don't die, we won't be able to explain ourselves when we return. After being lectured by Shui Changdong, Fang Tianyi couldn't help but nod. Yes, yes. After seeing Shui Changdong and the others walk past, Di Beichun and the other two stood up. They really have a good plan. The eight-legged bright scorpion's lair is right in front of us, and they actually discovered it. If we were to fall into it, we would really die for no reason. When Xiren coldly snorted, the coldness in his eyes growing stronger. Di Beichun looked at the backs of Shui Changdong and the others thoughtfully. It seems that my previous judgment was not wrong. This matter was not done by them, but by someone else. That makes sense. Although Shui Changdong isn't a good person, as far as I know, this guy only cares about his own cultivation in the end. He doesn't care too much about romantic affairs. Moreover, the four of you are already famous in the Outer Palace. Ordinary people won't take the initiative to become enemies with you, said A.O. Lingxiao. Di Beichun's eyes narrowed slightly. His fine and long eyelashes left a shadow on his eyebrows, just like his unfathomable eyes. According to what you said, the person who ordered them to do this should be from the Inner Palace? A.O. Lingxiao chuckled. Shui Changdong's status in the Outer Palace is not low. The person who can make it difficult for him to explain is at least someone from the Inner Palace. I wonder who you think of when I say this. Di Beichun's sword-like eyebrows slightly raised. His deep and bright eyes suddenly became clear. I think I know who arranged this. It seems that they really don't want to give up. Xiren's lips curled into a cold and sarcastic smile. His eyes were already filled with snow. Chapter 36-32. We can only slowly settle this score in the future. Di Beichun's voice was gentle, but there was a bone-chilling coldness in it. Duan Huali. He had already warned this guy not to have any improper thoughts. He did not expect that this guy would not restrain himself at all. Instead, he had bribed the cultivators of the outer hall to take their lives. Since that was the case, they were completely on the opposite side. The other party had already sent people to deal with them. If he did not return the favor, it would be inappropriate. A.O. Lingxiao's expression changed. He did not expect that in such a short time, Di Beichun and the others had already found out who the enemy was. It seemed that this was going to be another big show. Di Beichun, what do we do now? Xiren turned to look at Di Beichun. We can't go forward. I'm afraid that those guys who didn't fear death and continued to advance will really lose their lives here. Just thinking about the eight-legged bright scorpion's lair, one could imagine that the number of eight-legged bright scorpions would be extremely shocking. There was no other outcome other than death for a mere dozen people. We'll wait here. If those guys come back, we'll throw them back. Di Beichun's eyes were cold as he said in a deep voice. A.O. Lingxiao glanced at Di Beichun and said, Then we have to pay attention to the time. If those guys provoke the eight-legged bright scorpions, we have to do our best to escape. Okay, Not long after, Di Beichen and the others heard a cry of surprise from the front. This cry was filled with fear and shock, followed by the fluctuations of a battle. Seeing this, Di Beichen and the others narrowed their eyes. It seemed that the situation was exactly as they had expected. The three of them quietly listened to the fluctuations of the battle. Di Beichen's thin lips opened slightly. These people are really doomed. That was because the ripples from the battle were constantly decreasing, which meant that more and more cultivators were dying. The more cultivators died, the greater the pressure on the remaining cultivators. In this situation, other than trying their best to stall for time, there was nothing they could do to change the final outcome. There's always a price to pay for trying to be a hero. A.O. Lingxiao's lips curled into a mocking smile. He usually felt that this kind of guy was the stupidest. At this time, a burst of chaotic and hurried footsteps came from the front. Di Beichun and the other two looked at each other, and the light in their eyes suddenly changed. On their faces, there was a cold and chilling smile. Damn it, these eight-legged bright scorpions are actually so fast. Our movements were already concealed enough, but we were still discovered at the first moment. Shui Changdong was running at the front of the group. He was very depressed. He deliberately chased after them to see if Di Beichen and the others were in front, but he didn't expect to attract the attention of the eight-legged bright scorpions. These guys were extremely sharp. Although they were walking beasts, their speed was still very shocking. If they couldn't shake off the eight-legged bright scorpions, it would also bring them great trouble. Most importantly, he didn't see Di Beichen and the others. I wonder where Di Beichen and the others went. We didn't see them at all. Chapter 36-33. I wonder if these guys. While Shui Changdong was speaking, three figures suddenly appeared in front of them. Weren't they Di Beichen and the other two that they were looking for? The three of them are there. At the same time, Fong Tianyi and the others also noticed Di Beichen and the other two. Their faces suddenly turned pale and complicated, and they could not help but feel guilty. Why are they here? We clearly didn't see them before. For a moment, everyone in the team felt a little complicated. Logically speaking, Di Beichen and the others should not have noticed their existence. However, looking at the appearance of Di Beichen and the other two, they actually felt like they had been seen through. If the other party had not seen through them, they would not be standing in front of them so aggressively at this moment. Shui Changdong could not help but be stunned. Thousands of thoughts ran through his mind, and countless ideas appeared in an instant. In the end, he still held onto a fluke mentality and shouted at Di Beichen and the others, "There are eight-legged bright scorpions behind us. Let's leave quickly." He only hoped that Di Beichen and the others had not seen through their conspiracy. As long as Di Beichen and the other two did not know, then they would still have a chance to make a move in the future. "There are eight-legged bright scorpions behind us?" Xiren pretended to panic. "Are there a lot of them?" Looking at Xiren's surprised look, Shui Changdong could not help but feel happy. He then nodded and said, "There are a lot of them. Once we are surrounded, we will lose our lives. Let's quickly find other cultivators to join up with." "So there are a lot of eight-legged bright scorpions," Di Beichen said slowly. He lowered his head slightly, and the corner of his lips suddenly raised into a charming arc. He chuckled. When he raised his head again, his deep and charming eyes suddenly bloomed with a bright light, and his voice followed. "In that case, I am relieved." Shui Changdong and the others looked at Di Beichen in confusion. They did not understand what Di Beichen meant at all. However, in the next second, they understood. Di Beichen and the other two's figures suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning, and without any explanation, directly approached them. Seeing this, Shui Changdong and the others could not help but panic. At this point, anyone could feel that the situation was not right. However, they did not understand. Were Di Beichen and the other two not afraid of danger? The eight-legged bright scorpions were not far from where they were, but they still dared to stay here and not leave. The idea of Di Beichen and the others was very simple. They would unexpectedly give the opponent a blow. They didn't need to be fatal. They just needed to throw the opponent to a place close to the eight-legged bright scorpion. In this way, they didn't need to spend too much effort. These 8-footed bright scorpions could help them solve this problem. Bang, bang, bang. Di Beichen and the other two were extremely fast. Before the other party could react, they had already begun to attack. In just a moment, 3 of the other party's members were kicked to the back. The 3 of them were ambushed, and their brains could not react for a moment. However, in the process of flying, they also understood what kind of situation they would be in when they landed. Immediately, their faces flashed with intense panic. No! Frightened and terrified voices rang out in the air, causing Shui Changdong and the others to be even more shocked. Chapter 36-34. At this moment, Shui Changdong was certain that Di Beichen and the others were aware of their scheme, which was why they did what they did. Di Beichen, the 8-legged bright scorpion, is not far behind us. If you fight with us now, it won't be beneficial to you or us. Shui Changdong looked at Di Beichen in front of him and felt a little nervous. He suddenly felt that Di Beichen was a complete madman. The current situation was extremely dangerous. If they were not careful, all of them would die here. If it were him, even if the opponent was right in front of him, he would not risk his life to fight with the opponent. After all, he could lose his life at any time. Didn't you deliberately lead us here so that we could face the 8-legged bright scorpion? Isn't it good that I'm fulfilling your wish now? Di Beichen's thin lips curled slightly. It was a beautiful smile, but it made Shui Changdong's heart turn cold. He had miscalculated. He did not expect Di Beichen and the others to be so sharp. The other cultivators did not notice anything wrong, but Di Beichen and the other two did. From the moment they noticed, his plan had already failed, and he had also fallen into an extremely passive situation. He regretted it. If he had known that things would turn out like this, he would not have taken the risk for those benefits. Even if his status and strength in the outer hall was not bad, offending Di Beichen and the others would not end well. You're crazy. Shui Changdong could not help but curse. From Di Beichen's actions, he could tell that the other party wanted to keep him here forever, in this trap that he had designed himself. Faced with Shui Changdong's curses, Di Beichen was very indifferent. You should have known that you would not have a good ending by scheming against us. Since you deliberately planned to die at the hands of the 8-legged bright scorpion, I'll let you experience it. In the next moment, Di Beichen's attack arrived quickly, not giving his opponent any chance to escape. Originally, Ao Lingxiao had nothing to do with this plot. However, he was temporarily in the same team as Di Beichen and the others. Moreover, he was also involved in this plot. Naturally, he couldn't let it go so easily. Although he was always alone, many people knew that he didn't have a good temper. Otherwise, no one would have dared to provoke him for so long. With this move, Ao Lingxiao's strength was revealed. The cultivators in his hands were quickly kicked back to where the 8-legged bright scorpions were gathered. Fang Tianyi, let's join hands and get rid of this guy. Shui Changdong's expression was very ugly. His strength had already reached the 7th level of the Purple Realm. He originally thought that it wouldn't be difficult to deal with Di Beichen, but he didn't expect that Di Beichen had also broken through the 6th level of the Purple Realm. This was something he never knew. Thus, he felt that this battle was extremely difficult. He could only find helpers to help him. Otherwise, he might not be able to keep his life. Hearing Shui Changdong's words, Fang Tianyi also nodded. Okay. Looking at the two people in front of him, the frost in Di Beichen's eyes did not fade. He did not retreat at all and went up to greet them again. Bang, bang, bang. The 3 figures quickly tangled together. Even if one person was fighting 2 people, Di Beichen still did not fall into a disadvantage. Chapter 36-35. Bang. Di Beichen's fist landed heavily on Shui Changdong's chest, suddenly suffering a heavy blow. Shui Changdong could not help but take 2 steps back, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his lips. Tasting the metallic taste in his mouth, Shui Changdong reached out and wiped the corner of his lips. After seeing the dark red bloodstain, his gaze turned gloomy. You really live up to your reputation. You're only at the 6th level of the Purple Realm, but you're still able to heavily injure me. Even though his expression was calm, the fear in Shui Changdong's eyes could not be dispelled. He already knew that Di Beichen had the ability to fight above his level, but he could not be sure if he did not fight with him personally. Now that he understood, he knew that if he continued to fight with Di Beichen like this, he would definitely not be able to leave safely. Since you've already heard about it, you should be wise not to seek trouble for yourself. Di Beichen's gaze was as cold as a knife, and his voice did not contain any warmth. There was no enmity between him and Xue Changdong, and it was not wise for Xue Changdong to accept benefits to seek trouble in this situation. Xue Changdong withdrew his gaze, and his pale face was filled with annoyance and regret. In the next moment, it suddenly turned into a sinister and resolute expression. My actions this time were indeed not wise enough, so I won't continue to entangle with you. As soon as he finished speaking, Xue Changdong directly grabbed Fang Tianyi, who was beside him, and suddenly threw him in the direction of Di Beichen. Then, he quickly fled to the other side. Looking at Fang Tianyi, who suddenly rushed towards him, Di Beichen flicked his long sword, lifted his right leg, and kicked Fang Tianyi to the back. Brother Xue. Fang Tianyi obviously did not expect that Xue Changdong, who had followed him for a long time, would suddenly betray him. He only understood when he was surrounded by the 8-legged bright scorpions. However, it was too late when he realized this. Xue Changdong's figure had already disappeared without a trace, and the densely packed 8-legged bright scorpions around him made him understand that he would definitely be buried in the belly of these beasts today. Di Beichen turned around and saw Xue Changdong's figure quickly disappearing from his sight. He could not help but frown. He did not expect Xue Changdong to betray his teammate so easily. Beichen, the 8-legged bright scorpions are very close to us. Let's leave quickly. If we continue to stay here, we'll be in danger ourselves. When Ziran walked to Di Beichen's side, Xue Changdong, this kind of guy, directly used his teammates as a scapegoat. I'm afraid no one will believe him in the future. Di Beichen nodded. Let's go. When Ao Lingxiao heard their voices, he immediately turned around and left. The three of them flew away. When they left, they did not try to hide their speed at all. After seeing Ao Lingxiao's speed, Di Beichen and Wen Ziran were relieved. They immediately smiled and said, Ao Lingxiao, your speed is really not bad. They remembered that before Xue Changdong and the others returned, Di Beichen asked Ao Lingxiao about his speed. If speed was not Ao Lingxiao's forte, then they could not let Ao Lingxiao stay and take the risk. Chapter 3636. Speed is the last resort for escaping. It doesn't matter if my combat power is a little weaker, but I have to be fast. Otherwise, if I can't even outrun others, what's the point? Ao Lingxiao raised his eyebrows. He was obviously very satisfied with his speed. Ziran, who was originally very impressed with Ao Lingxiao's speed, couldn't help but twitch his lips after hearing Ao Lingxiao's words. What you said really makes sense. Di Beichen chuckled. Brother Ao's words are different from others, but they are indeed very practical. If I wasn't good at speed, I'm afraid my life would have been lost. Ao Lingxiao's eyes flashed with a haze, but the smile on his lips suddenly had a hint of self-mockery. Di Beichen and Ziran looked at each other. Ao Lingxiao's appearance clearly showed that he was thinking of the past, and his words were also emotional. Thinking about it, the reason why Ao Lingxiao became like this probably had a lot to do with his past experiences. Ever since she couldn't see Di Beichen and the other two's figures, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little uneasy. Shang Guanying didn't care too much about it, but after being affected by Bailey Hongzhuang's mood, she couldn't help but worry. Let's go over there and take a look. The number of cultivators there seems to have decreased a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed ahead and said to Shangguan Yingying beside her. Okay, they didn't know anyone in the female team, and everyone didn't care about their actions. Therefore, no one cared about them leaving the team. However, not long after the two walked out, they suddenly saw a figure quickly rushing in their direction. After taking a closer look, they realized that this person was Xue Changdong. Xue Changdong was obviously a little surprised after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, but when he thought about Di Beichen and the other twos behind him, he quickly rushed over. His plot had been exposed. If he was caught by the other side, With Bailey Hongzhuang's usual style of doing things, he would probably lose his life here. Wasn't it Xue Changdong who left just now? Shangguan Yingying's face was filled with surprise. He should be with his teammates. Why is he alone now? It's really strange. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I don't know. She didn't have any feelings for Xue Changdong. And after hearing A.O. Lingxiao's evaluation of Xue Changdong, she didn't like this person. But from his face is panicked. Shangguan Yingying, and Shangguan Yingying. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking, Baisher's voice suddenly sounded. Master, Di Beichen's aura is approaching, and there are many eight-legged scorpions behind them. As Baisher's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly surprised. A lot of eight-legged scorpions? White Lion nodded. All of them are eight-legged bright scorpions. Perhaps this is their nest. As a beast king, Shangguan Yingying was very sensitive to the aura of monsters. Are Beichun and the rest in danger? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly asked. No wonder she always had a feeling of uneasiness in her heart. Beichun and the others were really in danger. Chapter 36-37. Roar. In the next moment, White Lion let out a loud roar. The loud roar seemed to shake the entire island. Immediately after, the 8-footed bright scorpions and 6-footed bright scorpions on the new island couldn't help but cry out. However, their voices were filled with obvious fear. The might of a beast king was something that all demonic beasts had to submit to. Di Beichun, who was quickly escaping, couldn't help but light up when he heard the familiar beast roar. That's Baisher's voice. Hongzhuang and the rest should be in front. When Ziren nodded his head, his gentle and jade-like face flashing with a happy luster, they should be looking for us. After hearing Di Beichun and Shangguan Ying's conversation, A.O. Lingxiao's face couldn't help but reveal a look of astonishment. This was because he realized that after the roar, the 8-footed bright scorpions that were chasing after them suddenly stopped in their tracks. From the looks of it, they were clearly afraid. The 8-footed bright scorpions were Purple Realm level 6 demonic beasts. Among the many demonic beasts, the 8-footed bright scorpions were considered to be of an extremely high level. The demonic beast that could make the 8-footed bright scorpions feel fear must be of an extremely high level. Although Master Long had given them decent demonic beasts, these demonic beasts were still young and obviously couldn't have such power. As such, there was only one possibility left: Bailey Hongzhuang's demonic beast. The demonic beast that looked like a lion and a tiger was extremely famous in the Outer Palace. In the battle back then, this demonic beast performance was extremely shocking. Therefore, all the disciples in the Outer Palace knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a demonic beast that was extremely powerful. However, from the current situation, everyone seemed to have underestimated this demonic beast. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying walked forward. Not long after, they saw 3 figures that were flying towards them. After seeing their faces clearly, the 2 of them couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Following that, a smile appeared on their faces. Beichun, you're back, Bailey Hongzhuang called out softly, her gentle voice full of affection. Di Beichun nodded slightly and walked quickly to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. His broad and slender hands were already holding the latter's slender and fair hand. Why are there only the 2 of you? Aren't you with the team behind you? Hongzhuang was very worried about your safety when she saw you missing, so we left the team to look for you, Shangguan Yingying said. So that's how it is. Di Beichun and the other 2 suddenly understood. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichun and frowned. I heard from Baisher that you were being chased by the 8-legged bright scorpion and barged into its lair. This is a conspiracy, Di Beichun said slowly. Have you seen Xue Changdong? Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other. Just now, we saw Xue Changdong running out in a panic. After seeing us, he was stunned for a moment and then disappeared. The reason why we were chased by the 8-legged bright scorpion was because we fell into Xue Changdong's trap. Ziren sighed. However, this guy didn't get anything good out of it. His teammates have all fallen. What do you mean? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. We don't have any grudges with Xue Changdong. Why would he find trouble with you? Chapter 36:38. The group of 5 continued to move forward until they found a safe place before stopping. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying also understood the reasons behind this. In that case, the person who sent Xue Changdong should be Duan Huali. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of coldness, and her clear and bright phoenix eyes were quietly covered with a layer of haze. Di Beichen nodded. Other than him, I can't think of any other possible candidates. Xue Changdong is already an outstanding person in the outer hall. It's almost impossible for the cultivators in the outer hall to order him around. Only the disciples of the inner hall can do this. Even though they didn't get a definite answer from Xue Changdong, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were already incomparably certain. They knew very few people in the entire inner hall. Speaking of opponents, only Duan Huali was their opponent. Moreover, Xue Changdong only wanted to kill Di Beichen and Wen Ziren this time, but he left Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying behind. His intention couldn't be more obvious. This Duan Huali, I've already made it very clear before. I didn't expect him to still be so persistent. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned, and her beautiful and delicate face was filled with disgust. From the first time she saw Duan Huali, she felt that this person was arrogant and conceited. It was really difficult to leave a good impression on others. Duan Huali's intentions were also very obvious, but she clearly rejected them. Later, when they were in the outer hall, they didn't see Duan Huali causing any trouble, so she didn't take this matter too seriously. She didn't expect that Duan Huali would actually find Duan Huali to deal with them. This move was really well planned. If Duan Huali himself appeared, they would definitely be on guard. However, Duan Huali found someone who had no enmity with them to do this, so they wouldn't think of this point. In this way, the success rate would be greatly increased. If it weren't for Di Beichen and the other 2's intuition today, they would have fallen into this trap. In my opinion, Duan Huali's actions are not only for you, but also because he hates Beichen. Last time at the teleportation array, Beichen didn't give him any face. Ziren pondered and said. Shangguan Yingying secretly said, this Duan Huali is really despicable. Ao, who originally didn't understand the situation, I didn't expect it. This person is actually Duan Huali. This person is quite a bit of the inner hall. So what if he has some strength? Since he took the initiative to find trouble, we won't be afraid. Ziren didn't mind. Based on the current situation, Duan Huali was indeed stronger than them. However, along the way, most of the cultivators who died at their hands were stronger than them. Ao Lingxiao waved his hand. I didn't say you would be afraid, but it will be more troublesome to deal with. However, since this guy came up with such a sneaky plan, he doesn't want to make a move openly. You still have a lot of time to slowly deal with this matter. Now that guy Xue Changdong ran away, I think he won't dare to appear in front of us again. Ziren shrugged. It's best if I don't see him, otherwise I will teach him a lesson. Chapter 36:39. For the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 hunted monster beasts on this new island. Just as everyone had predicted, after the 6-footed bright scorpions were killed, only the 8-footed bright scorpions appeared. Therefore, everyone's clearing speed slowed down, and the number of cultivators who died and were injured continued to increase. During this time, they also tried to find Xue Changdong's figure, but Xue Changdong seemed to have disappeared, and they couldn't even find a trace of him. We haven't heard any news about Xue Changdong these past few days. Could he have left this new island? Shangguan Yingying frowned. Bailey Hongzhuang muttered. It's very likely, if he is still on this new island. Once we find him, we will definitely not show mercy. Now that he is alone and has no helpers, he definitely won't dare to face us, so leaving is the best choice. I'm afraid he has already gone to Duan Huali to seek his protection. Di Beichen's low and magnetic voice suddenly sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others heard it. As soon as these words came out, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. This was indeed the most likely situation. After Xue Changdong escaped, he immediately left the new island. Ever since he really fought with Di Beichen, he understood that he was not their opponent at all. Now that his teammates of many years had died, he was the only one left, and he didn't dare to continue to stay on this island. He didn't expect that the plan that he thought was foolproof would fail like this, and at this moment, he was even more regretful. Thinking about the current situation, he really went for wool and came back shorn. The most important thing was that in the future, it would be very difficult for him to not encounter Di Beichin and the others in the outer hall. Li Shangkai and the others had offended Di Beichin and the others before, and as a result, they were directly killed in front of Master Long. He was really worried that Di Beichin and the others would come back and attack again like before, then he didn't have the confidence to survive. The only thing he could do now was to look for Peng Karue. Only if Peng Karue was willing to protect him would he be able to continue staying in the outer hall. Otherwise, he would most likely die. Ever since Peng Karue and Duan Huali had given this task to Xue Changdong, they hadn't been in a hurry to go to the training grounds. Instead, they had been staying in the inner hall, waiting for news. On this day, when Peng Karue saw Xue Changdong appear, a hint of joy appeared on his face. Presumably, Xue Changdong had come to tell him the good news. However, as Xue Changdong gradually approached and he saw Xue Changdong's expression, he felt that something was wrong. Senior Brother Peng. When Xue Changdong saw Peng Karue, he felt as if he had seen his own family. I wasn't able to complete my mission successfully this time. Hearing this, the look in Peng Karue's eyes changed a little. He continued, "What exactly is going on? I still underestimated the strength of Di Beichin and the others." Xue Changdong slowly told Peng Karue everything that had happened. This was originally a foolproof plan, but I didn't expect them to see through it. Now, my teammates are all dead, and I'm the only one who returned. Chapter 3640. After understanding all this, Peng Kairue's frown deepened. "Do they know that I ordered you to do this?" "No." Xue Changdong shook his head. "Senior Brother Peng, don't worry. No matter what, I won't betray you. Although they have found out that I did it, I didn't reveal any information about you and Senior Brother Duan from the beginning to the end. They definitely don't know." As he spoke, Xue Changdong also looked at Peng Kairue's expression. He knew very well that if he revealed any information about Peng Karue would never let him go easily. Therefore, he couldn't reveal anything no matter what. Hearing Xue Changdong's answer, Peng Kairue's expression became better. When he decided to take action against Di Beichin and the others, he was very worried. After all, if Di Beichin and the others knew that he was the one who arranged this matter, it would be tantamount to offending Master Long. The reason why he decided to take action in the end was undoubtedly that he was hoping for a fluke. As long as he got Shangwan Yingying, he could use this relationship to get close to Master Long. Therefore, this matter must be carried out without leaving any traces. Fortunately, although Xue Changdong was discovered by Di Beichin and the others, at least he didn't reveal any information about her. That's good. Senior Brother Peng, now that Di Beichin and the others know about me, once they come back from the training ground, they will definitely find trouble with me. With my current strength, I'm no match for them at all. You must help me." Xue Changdong's face couldn't hide the nervousness on his face. Ever since he fought with Di Beichin, he understood how powerful the latter was. Now that he was the only one left, if Di Beichin wanted to take his life, it would definitely be a piece of cake. It wasn't easy for him to get to where he was now. He didn't want to lose his life just like that. Peng Karue glanced at Xue Changdong, then smiled and said, "I know. If they really find trouble with you, I will definitely protect you. You don't have to worry." "Thank you very much, Senior Brother Peng." Xue Changdong was overjoyed in his heart. His heart immediately calmed down, and he let out a sigh of relief. From the looks of it, the past 2 days have probably been extremely difficult for you. All of your teammates have fallen. Your days in the outer palace will probably not be as comfortable as before, said Peng Karue slowly. Alas, Xue Changdong sighed, and his expression was extremely gloomy. Indeed, who would have thought that it would end up like this? If he could, he really wished that he could turn back time. If he had known that this would be the outcome, he would never have agreed to Peng Kairue's request. After losing so many teammates, his future development would be much more difficult. He might even have to join other teams. In this way, he naturally couldn't be the captain, and the distribution of benefits would be greatly reduced. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. No matter how regretful he was, he couldn't show it on his face. Forget it. The reason you ended up in this situation is because of us. Come with me. I will go to the house to get some cultivation resources for you. Consider this my compensation to you. Peng Kairue shook his head and sighed. Chapter 36:41. Thank you, Senior Brother Peng. Shui Changdong thanked him again and again. His original disappointment and sadness dissipated a lot at this moment. Peng Kairue smiled faintly. It's no problem. You've helped me a lot in the outer hall over the years. Now that you've fallen into such a situation, I don't feel good. Senior Brother Peng, you've been taking care of me all these years. You don't have to be so polite. Shui Changdong's eyes flashed with sincerity. He had indeed helped Peng Kairue and Duan Huali a lot over the years. Duan Huali was a veteran in the field of flowers. Once he took a fancy to any woman in the outer palace. As long as the other party was unwilling to submit obediently, he would often help. However, the remuneration that Peng Kairue and the others gave him was also very good, so this cooperative relationship had always been maintained. It was because of this that he finally chose to agree to this matter after thinking about it for a long time. After all, he didn't want to break off his cooperative relationship with Duan Huali and the others. Now that he saw that Peng Kairue could still treat him with such an attitude in such a situation, he couldn't help but feel touched. His previous actions were worth it. However, Shui Changdong didn't notice that when Peng Kairue turned around, his eyes flashed with malice and viciousness. When Peng Kairue came to Duan Huali's room, his mood was very complicated. Duan Huali, this matter didn't go as smoothly as you and I expected. As soon as he entered the door, Peng Kairue went straight to the point. Hearing this, Duan Huali couldn't help but frown. What? Shui Changdong couldn't get rid of them? Peng Kairue nodded. That's right. Not only did he not get rid of Di Bei-chan, but he was also discovered. What? Duan Huali's face suddenly became serious. You said Shui Changdong was discovered? Then, did he mention the two of us? Don't worry, he didn't. Peng Kairue said slowly. I've already dealt with Shui Changdong. He won't have a chance to speak again. As Peng Kairue's voice fell, Duan Huali breathed a sigh of relief and said, You did well. This news can't be leaked. It won't do us any good. Are you sure that Shui Changdong didn't say anything before? I'm sure. Peng Kairue replied. Shui Changdong is not a fool. He naturally knows that if he offends us, it will only be more disadvantageous for him. That's good. Duan Huali nodded. I didn't expect Shui Changdong to handle things so badly this time. In the past, his methods were not bad. How could he be discovered this time? The scheme that Shui Changdong came up with wasn't bad, but we still underestimated the sensitivity of Di Bei-chan and the others. In my opinion, since Di Bei-chan and the others were chosen by Master Long, it means that their strength is indeed not simple. Now that Shui Changdong has been defeated, our previous plan can no longer be carried out. In my opinion, it's better to drop this matter for the time being and see how it goes in the future. Peng Kairue's expression was very complicated. Shui Changdong's strength in the outer hall was already very good, but even he didn't succeed. If they found other cultivators, the success rate wouldn't be much higher. On the contrary, Kumeng was discovered. Chapter 36:42. It's just a failure. Are you going to give up just like that? Duan Huali's eyes were covered with a layer of haze as his deep voice was filled with unwillingness. Aren't you a little too cowardly? If we don't succeed this time, we can try again next time. It's only the lives of 2 Outer Palace disciples. It's absolutely not a difficult task. As long as he thought of Di Bei-chan's attitude towards him before, Duan Huali felt that he could not take this lying down. Especially when he heard that the reason why Shui Changdong's plan was discovered this time was because Di Bei-chan's reaction was too sharp. He felt even more unhappy. He just wanted to trample on Di Bei-chan and let this guy know the immensity of heaven and earth. He never thought that this matter would instead show Di Bei-chan's power, which undoubtedly made his resentment bottled up in his chest and unable to be vented. That young guy's cultivation was obviously not as good as his, but he still dared to put on an arrogant attitude in front of him and did not care about his face in front of everyone. If he did not teach Di Beichun a good lesson, how could he feel at ease? Therefore, he wanted to kill Di Beichun and take away Di Beichun's woman. Only in this way could he vent his anger. Looking at Duan Huali's unwilling look, Peng Kairui's idea was very firm. If they had no background, it would be fine. But they have Master Long behind them. I don't want to get into such trouble again. If you want to continue, you can continue. I will not reveal half a word, but I will not participate in this matter. Peng Kairui's expression was firm. He did not have enough confidence in this matter. Now that things had turned out like this, he naturally did not want to continue. The most important thing was that after listening to Shui Changdong tell him all the details about the matter, he felt more and more that Di Beichun and others were powerful. Lord Long had been in Penglai Palace for so many years, but he had never shown any appreciation for cultivators. But now, he appreciated Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three so much. This alone showed that they were not ordinary. Previously, he didn't want to believe this, but now he had no choice but to believe it. He believed that there was no benefit in continuing to be enemies with Di Beichun and the others. Once they achieved good results in the inner palace in the future, he would be the unlucky one. Since that was the case, he might as well stop as soon as possible. At least the situation wasn't too serious. Have you really made your decision? Duan Huali asked in a deep voice. That's right. I've made my decision. Peng Kairui replied. Duan Huali, I don't think these guys are easy to deal with. Why don't you stop? It's not too late to stop now. Duan Huali couldn't help but laugh coldly when he heard this, and his gaze grew even gloomier. Could it be that you think everyone is as useless as you? I'll definitely do what I say. They're just outer palace disciples. Do you think I can't teach them a lesson? Seeing that Duan Huali still had no intention of stopping, although Peng Kairui was a little helpless, he didn't say anything more. He and Duan Huali had known each other for so many years, and he knew the latter's temperament very well. Chapter 36-43. Di Beichun's group stayed on the new island for a while, until all the 8-legged bright scorpions on the new island were killed before they returned to the Penglai Palace. Most of the cultivators who went to the new island waited until now to return, because the points gained from killing the 8-legged bright scorpions were much higher than ordinary monsters. Just the harvest from this period of time was enough for them to go to the resource room to exchange for some cultivation resources they needed. After fighting with the 8-legged bright scorpions for such a long time, my strength has improved a little. There was a faint smile on Wenziren's face. After we go back this time, I have to relax. Why don't we order a pot of wine and some side dishes when we go back and reward ourselves? Di Beichun's lips slowly curved into a faint smile, his voice as gentle as the spring breeze. Sure, after returning, we will rest for a few days. During these few days, you can relax however you want. Until now, I still feel that the number of 8-legged bright scorpions is too shocking. Recently, I even feel like I'm dreaming about them. Shang Guanying shook her head. Fortunately, we don't have to see these 8-legged bright scorpions for a while. After returning, let's have a good rest for a while. We can also go to the resource room to see if there are any treasures that can help our cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved slightly. The most important thing for them now was to improve their cultivation. Shang Guanying nodded. Sure, I'm also very interested in the Penglai Palace's resource room. Master, we haven't seen Shui Changdong for a while. We don't know where that guy is hiding. If we return to the outer palace and see Shui Changdong, what do you plan to do? Xiaohe looked up at Bailey Hongzhuang. During the days when they were dealing with the 8-legged bright scorpions, they had not heard anyone mention Shui Changdong. Shui Changdong must have run away. If we meet, Bailey Hongzhuang's cherry-red lips curled up as a cold light flashed across her clear eyes. Then we'll naturally let him know the price he has to pay for offending us. Blood for blood. From the moment Shui Changdong intended to take the lives of Di Beichun and the others, the two sides were already in an irreconcilable situation. When Ao Ling Xiao heard the murderous intent in Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Sure enough, none of the 4 people in this group were simple. They were all decisive in their actions, without the slightest hesitation. However, this kind of personality was also what he liked. After returning from the training ground, Ren Ziheng's group immediately went to look for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, they were informed that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had gone to the training ground and had yet to return. Seeing this, they stayed in the inner hall and waited for Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest to return. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine had given them too much of a shock. If they didn't have a good discussion with Bailey Hongzhuang about the medicine, they wouldn't be able to relax. However, they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would leave for such a long time. Chapter 3644. A new island has appeared in the training grounds of the Outer Palace disciples this time. Most of the Outer Palace disciples have gone there to train. Every time a new island appears, the rewards for hunting monsters are very rich. It's normal that they haven't returned yet. Ren Ziheng looked very indifferent, and there was not the slightest anxiety between his brows. Weren't we like this when we were in the Outer Palace? If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid they will wait until the new island is completely cleaned up before returning. Listening to Ren Ziheng's words, Ren Zimei also nodded. That's right, the appearance of a new island is a good opportunity to earn points. Speaking of which, Junior Sister Bailey's luck is also very good. This is only the first time they have gone to a training ground, and they already encountered such an opportunity. If they take advantage of this opportunity to earn more points in exchange for some treasures that are helpful for their cultivation, it will be worth it. That's true. Chu Jinfeng smiled faintly. But I heard that the monster that appeared on the new island this time is the eight-legged bright scorpion. This monster's combat power is not weak. I just hope they can return safely. The three of them looked at each other. Every time they went out to gain experience, there was always danger. Every time they went out to gain experience, their lives were on the line. No one knew if they would be able to come back alive the next time. Fortunately, they also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were strong. Although the eight-legged bright scorpion's combat power was not weak, with their strength, they should not be in too much danger. Just as Ren Ziheng and the others were talking and walking towards the inner palace, suddenly, four familiar figures appeared not far away. Seeing these four figures, a smile immediately appeared on Ren Ziheng and the other two's faces. Junior Brother D, Junior Brother 1, you're back. Di Beichen and the others did not expect to see Ren Ziheng and the others as soon as they came back. They immediately smiled and said, Senior Brother Ren, Senior Brother Chu, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you as soon as we came back. It's not that coincidental. We came here specially to find you. We just went to your residence and saw that you didn't come back, so we prepared to go back. We didn't expect to meet you halfway. Chu Jinfeng smiled. Looking at you, you must have gained a lot from this training, right? How can our gains be compared to you as Inner Palace disciples? Xiren raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. But we encountered a new island this time, so our gains are not small. By the way, Senior Brother Ren, Di Beichan asked slowly, there are indeed some things. Ren Ziheng nodded, but when he spoke, he couldn't help but look at Ao Ling Xiao. He didn't know what the relationship between Ao Ling Xiao and Bailey Hongzhuang was. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others glanced at Ao Ling Xiao and nodded. As for Ao Ling Xiao, they currently didn't know how to view him. Chapter 3645. After Ao Ling Xiao left, Ren Ziheng smiled and said, you must be tired after training outside for so many days. Why don't we go to a restaurant and have a drink? Di Beichin nodded and smiled, sure. However, when Di Beichin and the others arrived at the restaurant, they found many familiar figures in the restaurant, such as Jing Tianlang. Jing Tianlang could not help but welcome Ren Ziheng and the others when he saw them. Junior Brother D, I didn't expect to see you again. Did you come out to eat with Ren Ziheng and the others? That's right. We just happened to run into each other, so we agreed to have a drink here. Senior Brother Jing, why are you here alone? Di Beichin glanced at Jing Tianlang's side. It seemed that he was the only one eating here. He was a little surprised. Jing Tianlang smiled and waved his hand. I just happened to want to improve my food, so I came here. With that, Jing Tianlang pulled Ren Ziheng to his side and whispered, Rin Ziheng, I've been waiting here for quite a few days now, but I haven't seen the young man you speak of. Have you seen him again? I didn't see him either. Rin Ziheng shook his head helplessly. I think he must have an extraordinary identity. I only met him by chance last time. I don't think he would show up here for no reason. Sigh. Jing Tianlang sighed. It's such a pity that you missed such a great opportunity. I came to this restaurant again today in hopes of meeting him again, but I know that it won't be so easy. Rin Ziheng's face was full of worry, as if he regretted missing such an opportunity. Seeing this, Jing Tianlang could not help but pat Rin Ziheng's shoulder. Since that young man is so capable, I believe he'll be famous in the future. On the side, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Jing Tianlang and Rin Ziheng's strange appearance, and their eyes couldn't help but flash with deep doubts. What's going on? Why are you acting so mysterious? It's like you've encountered something you regret in your life. Ziren raised his eyebrows and looked at Ren Zimei and Chu Jinfeng. Ren Zimei and Chu Jinfeng found it very interesting. Ren Ziheng's expression was very realistic when he was bluffing. If they did not know the truth, they would have been fooled by Ren Ziheng as well. You'll find out soon. Chu Jinfeng whispered to Ziren. This is why we called you here. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other, but they were even more confused. Ever since their last training, they did not have any contact with Jing Tianlang. Logically speaking, they should not have anything to do with what Jing Tianlang's story. Not only that, they were clearly in front of them, they were also whispering to each other as they were also whispering. Rin Ziheng and Jing Tianlang only spoke for a short while before Jing Tianlang left, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered the private room. Senior Brother Chu, what did you mean by what you said just now? Why do I not understand what you're saying? As soon as he entered the private room, when Ziren asked the question in his heart, Chu Jinfeng smiled. It all started with the healing medicine that junior sister Bailey gave us. Chapter 3646. Junior Sister Bailey, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Previously, when we received your healing medicine, we didn't think much of it, but now it seems that we really had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I never thought that your medical skills would be so good. It has really exceeded our expectations. Rin Zimei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a face full of amazement. Thinking back to when she had first met Bailey Hongzhuang, she had only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was really a beautiful vase, but after interacting with Bailey Hongzhuang, she discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't just strong. Even her medical skills were incomparable to many other doctors, causing her admiration in her heart to grow stronger and stronger. To be able to have so many abilities at such a young age, how could one not be amazed? That's right. If I hadn't used the healing medicine you gave me at the critical moment, I wouldn't have been able to make it back alive this time. Rin Ziheng's eyes were filled with sincerity and gratitude. Junior Sister Bailey, this time you've saved my life again. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile, her voice gentle and clear. Senior Brother Run is too polite. My big brother is speaking the truth. His injuries were very serious at that time, and we didn't know what to do, but we suddenly remembered the healing medicine you gave us. I didn't think that the healing medicine would be so effective. It was even more effective in restraining the power of darkness than the healing medicine sold in the Devil Training Tower. It was because of this that my big brother was able to keep his life. Junior Sister Bailey, this time we really have to thank you. Rin Zimei suddenly stood up and bowed deeply to Bailey Hongzhuang. Junior Sister Bailey, any thanks. Seeing Rin Zimei's serious expression, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but stand up and say, Senior Sister Ren, you're too polite. We're friends, this is nothing. Although you think it's nothing, it's still a great debt to us. Ren Zimei's expression was resolute. Junior Sister Bailey, we still owe you a favor. In the future, if there is anything you need us to do, just say the word and we will definitely not refuse. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at Di Beichen beside her. Di Beichen quietly nodded and said, Hongzhuang, this is Senior Brother Ren and Senior Sister Ren's gratitude. If you don't accept it, I'm afraid they won't be able to let go. That's right. Ren Ziheng nodded. We siblings have always been grateful people. Then Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, "We are all friends. No matter who is in danger in the future, we will help each other." "Why are you suddenly so serious? Let's all sit down. We won't know what's going on when the waiter comes and sees this scene," Xiren said. After Xiren broke the atmosphere, everyone chuckled and sat down. "According to what you said before, Jing Tianlang should have come to you because he saw you using this healing medicine. So he asked about the origin of the medicine, right?" His deep and serene eyes were filled with the light of wisdom. Although it was a question, Di Beichen's words were very certain. Seeing Di Beichen see through everything so quickly, Ren Ziheng's eyes could not help but flash with a touch of appreciation. "That's right, that's it." Chapter 36:47. Chu Jinfeng shook his head, as if recalling the scene from before. His face was full of emotion. "So, you made up a story to deceive them?" Di Beichen asked. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Ren Zimei's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. "We haven't even said anything yet. How did you guess it?" Di Beichen chuckled. It was already very strange that Jing Tianlang was so secretive. Moreover, Senior Chu said that this matter had something to do with us. After thinking about it, I really couldn't think of any other possibility. Ren Zimei looked deeply at Di Beichen. Even though Di Beichen's explanation was very reasonable, she still felt that Di Beichen was extraordinarily smart. At least with this short information, Di Beichen was able to connect all the dots. It was really extraordinary. This healing medicine was given to us by Junior Sister Bailey. As far as I know, you didn't seem to have told anyone about this healing medicine, so we couldn't leak this information without your permission. It's just that Jing Tianlang and the others were really too clingy and didn't want to give up at all. They even brought up their many years of friendship. We had no choice but to make up a story and tell them that we met a fated young master in this restaurant and obtained the healing medicine from him. However, we don't know anything else about that young master. Because of this, many Inner Palace disciples have been wandering around this restaurant recently in order to find the young master we talked about. However, it's obvious that they won't be able to find him. Ren Ziheng spread out his hands, his handsome face full of helplessness. In the previous situation, he really had no other choice. "I see." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "I knew that the Inner Palace disciples were usually very busy. How could they have so much free time to gather around this restaurant? Speaking of which, Junior Sister Bailey, I really admire your medical skills to the point of prostrating myself before you." Chu Jinfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in amazement. "You don't know, but when we saw the effects of your healing medicine, almost all of us were dumbfounded. It's just too unbelievable. The 100 Flowers Gate has been researching healing medicine that can suppress the power of darkness for many years, but after so long, there hasn't been any progress. Only the healing medicine that the Demon Training Tower made a few days ago has a certain effect, but it still can't compare to your healing medicine." "Just how did you make it?" Ren Zimei nodded repeatedly. "That's right. When the Demon Training Tower took out that healing medicine, we felt that the other party was definitely a genius. However, compared to you, she can't be considered a genius. You're so young. I think that even if we spread the news before, no one would believe us." Hearing Ren Zimei's words, Sheng Waning couldn't help but laugh. "Haha, you don't know, but Hongzhuang's medical skills have always been praised. In the outside world, Hongzhuang's medical skills were also very famous." "I see." Ren Ziheng's eyes gradually changed, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with even more amazement. Chapter 36:48. Following Chu Jinfeng's words, Ren Ziheng, Ren Zimei, and Chu Jinfeng stared at Bailey Hongzhuang without blinking. They were very curious about this result. After all, based on Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the training grounds, it should be their first time understanding the power of darkness. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had only stayed there for half a month. If it was so easy for her to concoct such an effective healing medicine, it would be too unbelievable. However, other than this possibility, they could not think of any other. Faced with the three pairs of staring eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was rather awkward. She then nodded as the three of them stared at her in shock. "That's right. After studying the power of darkness in the training grounds, I gained some understanding of it. When I returned, I concocted this healing medicine. Clatter. Chu Jinfeng dropped his chopsticks. Clang. Ren Ziheng dropped the wine glass in his hand as well. Shangguan Yingying stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in silence. Her mouth was agape, and she still had a look of disbelief on her face. Although they had already guessed this possibility before, when Bailey Hongzhuang admitted it so calmly, they still felt that it was a little difficult to accept. After all, this healing medicine was something that many doctors could not concoct. However, Bailey Hongzhuang said it so casually as if she had done something very normal. There was nothing special about it at all. However, this was clearly an incredible result. The three of them stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang for a long while until Di Beichen's voice rang out. Only then did they return to their senses. Senior brother Ren, senior brother Chu, if you were to stare at my wife like that, those who didn't know better would think that you have some ulterior motives. Di Beichen joked. Ren Ziheng and Chu Jinfeng were slightly stunned. Then, they smiled awkwardly and said, "We were just too shocked. We did not expect Junior Sister Bailey's medical skills to be so amazing. We have underestimated Junior Sister Bailey's abilities." Junior Sister Bailey, if you tell anyone about this healing medicine, I'm afraid that even the genius doctor from the Demon Training Tower will not be able to compare to you. Renzume could not help but say. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. A bright and elegant smile bloomed on her face. To be honest, the doctor from the Demon Training Tower that you're talking about is me. It's me. It's me. Ren and the others had just recovered from their shock. They were dumbfounded when they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words. What? What did you say? Shangguan Yingying's eyes widened. She suspected that she had misheard. You said that the doctor in the Demon Training Tower was you? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, it's me. I came from the Demon Training Tower before. We were originally planning to return to the Demon Training Tower, but we met Master Long and were invited back. Wait, give me some time to think. Chu Jinfeng stretched out his hand and stopped Bailey Hongzhuang from continuing. He muttered, You're the genius doctor from the Demon Training Tower, so the healing medicine from before was also concocted by you? Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang said frankly. Now that things had come to this, it was not a secret that needed to be kept. There was no harm in saying it. Chapter 3649. Ren Ziheng had never understood this point before. Since everyone knew that the healing medicine of the Magic Training Tower actually had a certain restraining effect on the dark power, this healing medicine began to be crazily snatched by everyone. As the most famous of the many islands, Penglai Island naturally occupied a large portion of the healing medicine. Even so, if they wanted to buy the healing medicine, they had to rush to buy it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were just outer palace disciples, but they could have so many healing medicines. Most importantly, they were able to generously take out this healing medicine in front of a cultivator they had just met. From this, it could be seen that they did not value this healing medicine too much. Otherwise, they would not have taken it out so easily. If this healing medicine was originally made by Bailey Hongzhuang, then all of this would naturally be another explanation. Chu Jinfeng and Ren Zime looked at each other. Before, Bailey Hongzhuang's healing medicine had already shocked them. They did not expect to learn about such a heavy bomb now. It was really surprising. That's not right. Ren Zime frowned. Junior Sister Bailey, didn't you go to the Inner Palace Disciples training ground and see the dark power for the first time? Then how did you make that kind of healing medicine before? As soon as these words came out, Chu Jinfeng and Ren Ziheng also reacted. This was indeed a problem. Bailey Hongzhuang took a sip of tea and smiled. This is just a coincidence. Before coming to Penglai Palace, I did not know that the healing medicine I made before would have a restraining effect on the dark power. It was not until I went to the Inner Palace Disciples training ground that I saw everything with my own eyes that I understood. It was precisely because of this that I later added some medicinal herbs on the basis of the original healing medicine and adjusted the ratio of the medicinal herbs to improve the restraining effect on the dark power. So, the healing medicine you made before was not deliberately made to restrain the dark power, but accidentally discovered that it had such an effect. Chu Jinfeng could not help but raise his voice. The astonishment between his eyebrows had turned into a deep speechlessness. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Yes, I did not even know what the dark power was before. Naturally, it was impossible to make healing medicine for it. I really don't know what to say. Chu Jinfeng clicked his tongue. If the doctors of the 100 Flowers Gate knew that you accidentally made a healing medicine that they have not made for so many years, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Ren Ziheng and Run Zimei had a look of agreement. I think so too. On the side, Di Beichen and the others had a faint smile on their faces. They were already very clear about Bailey Hongzhuang's medical skills. Not to mention, there were not many people in the Shengxian continent who had better medical skills than Bailey Hongzhuang. Speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose slightly. She was very confident in the healing medicine she had concocted. The effect would definitely be better than the previous ones, but she still needed to know more about the specific situation. The main reason was that she had only been in contact with the power of darkness for a short period of time and did not fully understand its characteristics. Chapter 3650. In response to Bailey Hongzhuang's inquiry, Run Ziheng and the other two naturally did not hide anything. They immediately explained the specific situation after using the healing medicine. Her dark and bright phoenix eyes were filled with a serious light. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully listened to their description of the situation, and in her heart, she was also secretly thinking about what she still needed to improve on the healing medicine that she had concocted. Until all of this was described, Ren Ziheng finally spoke. Junior Sister Bailey, recently there have been too many cultivators asking about this healing medicine. The three of us are also tired of dealing with them. I wonder if you have any plans to tell them about this matter? As he spoke, Ren Ziheng could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. But it's normal that you don't want to tell them. The story that we made up before is basically believed by everyone. I think that as long as they can't find that young master for a period of time, they will give up. My big brother is right. Whether you are willing to tell them about this matter or not, we will respect your decision. As long as you're not willing, we will definitely not leak a single word. Ren Zimei said with a serious expression. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's head drooped slightly. Her fan-like eyelashes fluttered slightly, and a layer of shadow covered her beautiful pitch-black eyes, making it impossible for others to see through her thoughts. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang had only concocted this healing medicine for everyone to have one more way to save their lives. She did not have the intention to publicize it. After all, they were only Outer Palace disciples now. Once this news spread out, it was imaginable how lively the scene would be. At that time, there would definitely be many people coming to ask her for the medicine. She had a cold temperament, and she was not used to an overly lively environment. However, at this moment, her thoughts suddenly changed. Ever since she knew that Duan Huali had actually done these tricks behind their backs, she felt that she could no longer keep a low profile like this. In this outer palace, with Master Long's name, most cultivators no longer dared to provoke them. Even if someone came looking for trouble, they could easily deal with it. The inner palace was different from the outer palace. The cultivators in the inner palace were much stronger than the cultivators in the outer palace. They were also much bolder. Just like Duan Huali, he clearly knew that the four of them were recruited by Master Long, but he still dared to use these methods behind their backs. This proved that Master Long's name was not enough of a deterrent, or perhaps he thought that he was valuable enough that Master Long would not completely ignore him. Under such circumstances, Duan Huali probably wouldn't give up looking for trouble. With their current strength, it would indeed cause some trouble if Duan Huali were to ask the inner sanctum cultivators to deal with them. Therefore, it was best to display his value so that others would not dare to offend him. Now that he had released the news of the healing medicine, it was an extremely suitable opportunity. Hongzhuang has never liked, Di Beichun slowly said. Just as he was about to refuse on behalf of Bailey Hongzhuang, the latter's voice suddenly rang out. Sure, I don't mind telling this matter. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, Di Beichun, Wen Ziren, and Shangguan Yingying all looked at her in surprise. Her choice at this moment was completely different from her usual style. Waifu, Di Beichun frowned slightly. His pitch-black eyes became even deeper, like a black hole that no one could see through.